Welcome back, everyone. I would like you to clap once if you can hear me. Now, why don't you clap twice if you're having a good time at AdAsia? And now you have exactly done what we wanted you to do, so thank you for your free endorsement. My name is Atiya Zaidi. I'm Executive Creative Director of BBDO Pakistan, and I will be your host for the rest of the evening. And the highlight of the evening today will be our panel discussion called Women and Power. There is no shortage of studies that tell us that inclusive organizations score better on every metric of success. Yet, the number and percentage of women leading organizations around the world remains very low. I don't have to give you a percentage for Pakistan. Just look around you in this conference and on Women on the Stage. How many women are present? And in this world where men are told to be apologetic about their weaknesses and women are told to be apologetic about their strengths, these life lessons are as equally important for men as well, because someone famously said that being pro-women doesn't mean being anti-man. So men and women in the hall, lend your ears to the panel. I would invite first Dr. Zeelaf MUNIR, CEO and MD of EBM, one of the largest EBM is one of the largest FMCG companies in Pakistan, and since Dr. Zeelaf MUNIR has taken reins of the company in the last 5 years, it has grown to become double the profit that it used to give. Also, I call her company a unicorn organization because mainly of the roles in the company are held by women. So, Dr. Zeelaf MUNIR for you. Second person gracing our panel is Seema Jaffer. She can truly give 007 a run for his money, being the creative director and CEO of Bond Advertising. And if you think that my female Bond joke is lame, I dare you to take it up with Seema after the panel. That's an open dare. Go ahead. And last, we have Frieha Altaf, who actually needs no introduction. So, Frieha, please come to the stage. She has worn many hats in the versatile career of modeling, acting, production, social work, and running an event management company. Frieha has indeed come a long way, and it's ironic that she hates the phrase, "You have come a long way." Not afraid to speak her mind and walk the talk, she is the CEO of Catwalk Event Management and Productions. And last, our moderator for the day is one and only Atifa Silk, who has joined us, specially come to Pakistan for AdAsia. Atifa is brand director of Campaign Asia, and she has started her career as a journalist. Since 2011, she took reins of Haymarket, which includes Campaign Asia Pacific and Spikes Asia, and she's been doing this for 19 years. More power to you, women.
Great. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, the advertising and media industry is defined by complexity, disruption, and transformation. In the words of Sir Martin Sorrell, who was speaking here yesterday, the model has changed. Because the world has changed, it's time for us to build a new model, something more relevant and more fit for the future. And I would say one of the most critical parts of the industry that needs to be addressed is around talent. People are our most valuable assets. And today's most successful organizations are those that bring diverse perspectives, experiences to each new challenge and discussion. That's especially true at the leadership level. There are countless research studies out there that show you the financial benefits of having women in leadership roles. Yet, according to Forbes, and now I don't have the data for Pakistan, but globally, in 2018, women held just 24% of senior roles around the world. And women in 2018 represented just 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs. So at the rate we're going, it could be another 200 years before we see that gender gap actually close. But that's time that our industry doesn't have. We have to start treating talent as a metric, just like any other business goal. It's not only good for a company's culture, but also better for the bottom line. So I'm honored today to have 3 fascinating women with us to share their stories and to have an open and honest discussion about what it takes to be successful as a woman. So before we get into the challenges that women might face, I'd love to hear from you about your own personal journey, the highs and the lows. I'll start with you.
Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum, and good afternoon, everybody. It's really an honor and pleasure to be here tonight, and it's nice to see all of you people here, because I know what it's like to be in the graveyard session after lunch. So I think it goes to the power of women that we have all these wonderful people sitting here. So coming to your question of journey and highs and lows, I think the journey can be described as having to break multiple glass ceilings. The glass ceiling of family and societal expectations. I was a mother of 3 kids when I went through medical school and wanted to carve a way out for myself, wanted to be on my own feet, and hence wanted to not only pursue my education, also build my own career. And hence I decided that I'm going to be going to the States for my specialization. And I did, and did very good with that. The next glass ceiling is of professional life in a foreign country, with its own challenges, that yet was to be conquered. And fortunately, that happened as well. I was able to do what I set out to do, and of course, with the help and support of my husband, and turned out to be the right decision for me. The next glass ceiling is when you come back full circle. So it's like the return of the nomad, not knowing that it's actually going to be happening. So then you have to deal with the glass ceiling of pressuring through family legacies and the socio-cultural glass ceilings and pressures of the environment and the society we are in. So when I returned and was at the company, there was obviously anxiety. And I could understand that there is anxiety, and I could relate to it, because although I had many, many years of experience, it was in a different field. I was coming from a place where I had been to the most competitive of universities, I had been to the most competitive of professional organizations, and exposed to the world, and hence my thinking and addressing and solving problems was different. So I would want the solutions coming from my team. I would want that the environment should be open to learning. I would want a collaborative environment to work in. And that's when the motto that I set out for the year, which now continues and has become a part of it, was preserving our legacy and leading change. And it sounded like an oxymoron, but now when we look back, and I have my whole team here with me, they will tell you how we made it happen. So that's a little bit about my journey.
And the obstacles that you faced when you were trying to instigate this quite massive change in the organization, would have made people quite nervous. They would have felt uneasy. How did you address that?
I think my background in organizational behavior is what I put to use. And one of the tenets of change management is determining the pace and the communication and the message. We are there, and we truly, because it's a value-based institution, the higher purpose has to be identified, and the pace has to be in line with what is going to give you the results and yet not be disruptive. So rather than rushing into changing everything, we gradually evolved, keeping our eye on the ball, not missing any target, but having a long-term view on what we want the organization to look at. And that's what my team, I also had to develop a new team, but there were members from the old who had very, very important institutional legacy value. So they were all given an opportunity to come along. And then along the way, some of them themselves realized that this may no longer be a place where they are going to find it as fulfilling. And there were others who adopted and could see the value in what we were doing. And hence, so I'll just give you a very unrelated but yet related example. The oldest gentleman in the company, who's over 70 years old, we started a gym. And he was the first one to sign up for it. And he came to me. He has rosy cheeks now. He came to me and he had nearly tears in his eyes. And he said, I wish, he did not know what dumbbells were. He said, I wish I had done this, had started doing this 30 years ago. So these are small examples of how change happens.
So making people part of that change process, making them feel accountable,
they have to
been
own it.
quite key.
They have to own it. Because if they don't own it, it's not going to happen. And you have to continue to inspire them to own what we are talking about.
And talking about inspiration, Seema, you're an inspiration to many people in the room, I know that, and your passion for advertising and creativity really comes across. Even meeting you the last couple of days, I can see that. Tell me about your career and how you've developed that love for advertising in the business.
So, hello everyone. So I was a proverbial advertising brat. The agency was set up by my father, and like in most of Asia, a lot of the business is a legacy business. I mean, so is Zeelaf's business. So, but in my case, it seemed that my father had kind of decided that I was the chosen one, although there's a younger brother, and so I would hang around the agency and sort of immerse myself. There used to be a dark room in those days, and now when I tell kids and other younger people in the agency, this used to happen and all, they're like, we haven't even heard of these things. So doing all of that, I went away to university and I decided I'm not going to do advertising. I'm going to go and change the world. So this was the 80s, late 80s, and we were all wanting to go and, And I came back and I said, I don't think I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go back and do all this other stuff. And as fate would have it, I met my husband, who was not then my husband, and within a year we were married. And here I was back in Pakistan. So, and I joined the agency business. And then there's no looking back, because I think, in a sense, they say it's in your blood, or once you do enter the business, it does get into your blood. And it is one of the most exciting fields. I think you've been a part of the marketing and industry, and I think most of the people here they would not want to change it for anything else. So doing that, I mean, I entered that, and I went through the hoops and the rungs and all of that. And when I got into the leadership, when the baton actually passed on to me at some unknown time, I can't really say it happened at this particular time, but it did. I think as trust grew and as I came into my own, etc., it was very exciting, but there were a lot of challenges. I think one of the biggest challenge was that the industry and most of the businesses in Pakistan are very much a men-driven industry, and even in most of the world. So it was a business, there was a real boys' club. I mean, there still is. Even on the Pakistan Advertising Association, which I'm honored to be on. I'm the only woman right now on the committee. So there are lots of areas where you look at, and there are lots of challenges, and you decide, do I want to muscle in, or do I want to just sit back and do what I'm doing? And I think there comes a time when you also want to give back. So I think, after 25 years or more actually now, I decided that there is time to do a lot more with what I'm doing and try and start giving back to the industry. And so, the journey has continued, and we're all here, and I'm so excited that Ad Asia happened. Thanks to Sarmad and PA and all of that. And I think in whatever way I can, in my own present support or wherever, I feel women coming together also in the industry, we need to create those platforms, and I think this panel was just one of them. So I think there's a lot that can be done, and I think, I'll talk to you later maybe about other challenges that I've faced, but I think, I've reached a stage where I'm just loving it.
And that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Now, Frieha, tell us a little bit about your journey. You've worn many hats. You're a risk taker. You've done lots of wonderful things.
Thank you. So I think most people know about my story because I'm very vocal about it. And someone said, I said, just Google me. There's no secrets. Absolutely none. Whether it's my personal life, whether it's my professional life. I think that's the key that I found in my career: honesty. Honesty to your work, honesty to yourself, and honesty to what is right. So that, to me, has been my journey. It's not easy. When we were growing up, I've known these ladies since we were kids. We all went to the same school. And it's not easy in Pakistan, especially, I think, in the 80s when we were all growing up. It was a very different era. We had the Zeelaf era, which was my time. I came back from university, and I never wanted to do what I was doing. I wanted to be an artist. That was my vocation. That's what I studied. But suddenly I got thrown into the advertising world for 3 years. And then I was modeling, I was acting, I was doing different things, which were complete no-nos, especially in the elitist group of people, because they did not accept things like that. It wasn't a thing to do. You were told, you're never going to get married. No decent boy is going to marry you if you model, if you act, you're on television. It was not the thing to do. So breaking those barriers was an absolute necessity. And my parents were professionals. My father used to fly, and they never saw anything wrong with it. So there was this whole dilemma. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to do this? Even they went through it because it was hard. So I think breaking those barriers was important. And I think that when you are privileged, like we all are in this room, you have to take stock of what's right. You have to know what's happening in the world. And you have to break those barriers slowly. Unless we do that, and especially the women. One of the discussions is always about women. I went around at lunch There was hardly any women in this group. And I was very disappointed because obviously that is a fact, especially in Pakistan. 60% of the women who are graduate, who have a bachelor's degree, do not work after marriage. Now, whose fault is that? Is that the woman's fault? Is that the girl who's not working? Is it the father? Is it the husband? Is it the brother? Who's telling her not? We are living in a patriarchal. We have that society. So we have to stand up for our rights. We have to stand up for each other. We have to stand up for women. And we also have to stand up for men. We have to educate the men and tell them what's right and how to go about it, how to teach their girls. So I think for me, the career just happened. I was, as a model, I would find everything disorganized. So I decided to organize things myself. And in the end, I did my first event some 30 years ago. And it was a huge success. It was a groundbreaking event. And then a lot of the clients, multinational clients, supported me. A lot of women in those organizations supported me. And that was the beginning of the event management, the PR, celebrity management, everything that you see out there now.
And some of the issues that you're just talking about aren't just relevant to Pakistan. Actually, we see them across Asia. I've attended many events where the number of women are very small in the room. We've done a piece of research as Campaign Asia Pacific, and we found that at the junior or entry level in agencies, the makeup of women is at least 70% across the region. As you get more senior, those numbers just dwindle. And when you get to the top, if you look at the Asia Pacific leadership across certainly all of the big networks, there are not many women there, if any. So that situation is beyond just the Pakistan borders. What do you see, Seema, in the industry here?
So again, what does happen is there are many women, but as soon as they get into the middle management position, there are a lot more women in creative, now more entering media. But as soon as you get beyond the middle management, women get married and they don't have the kind of, and our industry is not very supportive in terms of flexi timings at all, both from the client and the agency side, are not supportive of daycare or any other things that women can, fall back on in terms of, so it is tough. And I think the few women who do make it, I mean, hats off to them. I think you need a real support structure in your personal life as well, because, the moment you have, a lot of women who are working there and who have kids, the guilt is immense, so leaving and the kind of hours that the agency business demands, the kind of traveling, the kind of hours. Even coming to this conference, I have a 14-year-old and she has exams, and my husband, who's kind of, is also in the marketing business, could not attend because I said only one of us can be the star. So you need to have that support system, and a lot of women don't have that. But the industry has to change and has to be more receptive and more encouraging, and actually have systems in place. And I think a lot of us women have been getting together and talking about these things. I actually end up hiring a lot more women, and I feel it works. It works for me, the business runs better. I have wonderful, loyal women who support me every step of the way. But as you get into the higher leadership positions, again, I think it is a problem that we need to resolve, because it's proven. There are reports that prove that women bring in innovation, they bring in a different perspective, they bring in ideas and thoughts and creativity, both in management and in the business style, and those actually lead to better business. So I think we need to all look at that and see where we can actually encourage women to be in more leadership positions,
And I'd love to hear about EBM and what is the makeup that you have over there. So some of the things that you've put in place to allow more women to flourish in the organization.
And before I get to that, just to add to very valid points Seema was making, so the need for diversity, but actually it's a hard economic reality. if 50% of the talent pool is untapped, how are you going to progress? I'm in the consumer goods business. If 50% of 50% of my people are consumers, and in buying decisions, probably even more. So if I don't have a perspective so it's not just about men being nice and generous and letting women come in. It is a hard economic truth. The GDP cannot increase unless there are more women in the workforce. And Pakistan is way behind, but this is a global number, that for the GDP to rise, the percentage of women in the workforce, it's imperative. It has to increase. Where EBM is concerned, you just take a look around. All these lovely women work at EBM. And they love to do so, right? So yes, we have, first and foremost, you have to feel the value that women add. And coming from a family of 4 amazing, talented sisters, we grew up with that value. So I can't take the credit for that. I have to give the credit to nature and to very emancipated parents. Traditional values, but emancipated. So that's a beautiful combination. So yes, we have a daycare. Our HODs are very flexible and generous with the timings that the people take. And much more importantly, what we were talking about, it's not that women, and of course recruiting practices, you have to be mindful that you have candidates who are women. Firstly, they should apply. And if they are applying, every head of department knows that this has to be looked at preferably, because we want to improve our numbers of women in the workforce. On our floor, on the factory floor, our whole packing department is run, not the whole, but majority of it is run by women. And by the way, this is not just in Karachi. I'm talking about our other facility, which is in Hattar industrial area, which is around, an hour, 2 hours from Islamabad, which is in the wilderness. So there too, we have the whole packing department even being supervised by women. So you have to create the culture, you have to create the environment where they can feel comfortable. And more importantly, what these ladies were also mentioning, it's not just getting them in. How do you make sure that they also can reach up to whatever their full potential is? And for that, it requires conscious effort. So, and what could be the challenges or the barriers that is preventing them from, so if we have, we've had examples of girls who've had babies, wanted to have babies. They want to have a different schedule, they want to get time off, and they want to come back. That's okay. So, because we see the value in the diversity and the perspective that they bring. And hence, we are nowhere close to where we need to be. It's a slow process, it's a gradual process, but there needs to be that balance. Now, talking about what you were just mentioning about, so there is one thing about, okay, women being there, but if we talk about biases, because that's what prevents it, right? So there's conscious biases, and there's also unconscious biases. When you talk about the conscious biases, they are the obvious ones, which is the bias because you're a woman. now it's mandatory on boards to have representations from women, in public companies or even in our forums and platforms. But it's one thing, and I am on multiple business platforms. So it's one thing having a woman there, and it's another thing for the woman to be taking the seat on that table the way everybody else is. So we have to also be mindful that it's not just for the optics. It is because they add the value that you otherwise don't get. Talking about unconscious biases. It's so when I don't know how this, I've never been able to figure out how this mechanism works, but somehow, as soon as I enter the factory premises, I mean, we have a big facility, so even the people at the other back of the, somehow everybody knows. And the day I'm not wearing my lipstick and eyeliner, everybody coming into my office says, "Aaj madam ka mood theek nahi hai." Okay, so, and those are the kind of things that one has to be aware of and conscious of, because those are unconscious biases that are definitely there, and there is an expectation of what is expected of a woman, and those have to be addressed and looked into. So for us to be able to get to where we need to be, where the value that diversity of thought, opinion, working styles, as well as the women are as leaders also. So the McKinsey study you were talking about, so the traits, so out of the 9 traits, 7 traits women are better at. And they're all required for the business of today. So it is traits like collaboration, traits like integrity, traits like moral compass, traits like being able to inspire, traits like mentoring, traits like coaching, and traits like the multitasking that women do, because that is the only option you ever had. So it's a natural for a woman to be multitasking. And hence, because the way the world is today and the way the business world is today, or say the way I work, I hyper-focus on what is the problem at hand at that time. But I cannot lose sight. So the lateral vision, again I say, especially in an industry like ours, which is consumer-driven, the lateral vision is extremely important. We have to be watching out for the trends. We have to be watching out for consumer behaviors. We have to be seeing how do we leverage technology from every aspect of what we do. We have to be knowing what the consumer of 20 years from now is going to want and need. And how can you do that if you do not have the capacity and capability to not just look at what is in front, but be able to scan the horizon and pick up on what is happening. So I would encourage everyone to try to get more women in, and you will see the difference.
And some of the things that you were talking about, can they be learned? You know, question for the whole panel. You're talking about unconscious bias. Is that something that, as organizations or leaders, you need to take control of and make happen?
I think so. I think that we have to be aware of everything around us. And again, communication is the only way that you will ever know if that's going around. So even if you're in a leadership position and you have men working for you, let's talk about that. Nobody talks about how men feel working for a woman who's in leadership. They have to respect you. You have to always lead with that thing that you can be open to having conversations with your team, your management, and even to the lowest of lowest people. So I think a lot of that unbiased, unconsciousness thing that you were talking about will come forward, because they should be able to speak up. They should be able to, and they should love the work as well. Otherwise it's not going to happen.
I think we have a role to play, because these unconscious biases don't go away by themselves. I think what we see on TV, what we see in our plays, I think as ad agencies, advertisers, marketeers, we can lean in on that and tell producers and TV channel owners and media owners that look at what is going on. I mean, women are being slapped in these plays. So what kind of, what is the messages that you're giving? We all have a role. We are communicators, and I think that has come out throughout this Ad Asia, that we do have responsibility, we do have a role. Ali put together that presentation of his. And again, in the plays, in the kind of, even the way we depict women in ads, I mean, I think there's a lot of responsibility that we need to take the blame for. And those just keep repeating the stereotypes, you see, and those kind of reinforce those biases, and we never get out of that. Okay, there are some advertisers and there are some agencies who are working consciously now on eliminating that, but I think a lot needs to be done, especially in our film and drama, and I mean, even in advertising. So I think we have a role to play, and we have to actually work consciously to try and remove those biases.
And I'll talk about two other unconscious biases in addition to this. There is also the unconscious bias of family owned and managed businesses, which is very prevalent in our culture. Maybe there's a history and justified, because the mindsets of such enterprises were different. However, when there is professional mindset, capable people who are not only invested in what they are doing, but can have the liberty of long-term view, that is essential for business, because the world works on quarterly reports now, and they are now realizing for themselves that is not what is going to build the companies of the future. The companies of the future require the ability for the CEOs to have a long-term view and to make the investments based on long-term views. And that is what ensures sustainability of the business. The other unconscious bias is the bias of privilege, like I think Frieha or Seema mentioned. So the bias of privilege, it's a rose with extra thorns. So I had to work very hard all my life. And I have everything to prove that, right? The only difference was I had the choice if I wanted to do it or not. And I chose to. So why should that be a bias? So there are so many multiple biases that once you start looking into, you realize, and you have to take them head on. And you have to get to the bottom, because human nature, it's more ignorance than badness. The world wouldn't be going around if there were not more good people than bad people in the world. So I think it's more about ignorance. And I think the more we educate, the more we communicate, that's the way to go. And it's not just here. We are talking about a place on, is it really the place on the table or the board? I look forward to the day when I am called the CEO of a large corporation rather than a woman CEO of a large corporation. But even in the emancipated world, it is still the same so far.
Yes, and I think we're all guilty of that. I know as campaign, even when we write stories on people appointments, it's a big piece of news if there's a female candidate that's been selected for a senior role in the industry.
So I think bias, stereotyping, and not having diversity, not being open-minded. We're living in a global world now. We're not living in just Pakistan. We might have a different mindset, but now you have social media. So it's not just one route. World is changing every day. We were discussing this. The generation every decade is different. So mindset is different. We're going into a new world. We have to move with the world. And we can't move if we're going to get stuck in all these traditions, not traditions that are good, but traditions that are not good. We have to give that up now.
So the other question I have for you is how important is it to build a personal brand? So I know as a journalist, when we reach out to people for interviews or comments, men will put their hand up straight away. In fact, they're writing to us to get featured in campaign. Women less so. They're not as forthcoming as you would expect them to be, and that's across Asia Pacific. So how important is it to build a personal brand? How important is it to have that self-development strategy in place for yourself?
I think it's very important. I think even the panel, Power Women, I think women are scared of power. A lot of women think that power means, I'm not liked, maybe. People will think I'm a bitch. I mean, I'm being totally honest here, it becomes a dichotomy and they choose not to. And then even when they do get into positions, and I've also learned along the way, I was not very forthcoming or and I realized that no, you need to find your own superpower, and you need to brag if you need to tell people, this is who I am, this is what I do. You need to network, you need to get out there, and this is for all the young women, who are in this audience. You need to find the correct mentors, you need to talk about your performances, and you need to reach out, and I think you need the support of everyone around you, and you need to get out of that comfort zone, and men are very good at doing that. They have their networking, they have their, meeting together at lunches, etc. Women, because they're multitasking or their family pressures, if they don't have kids, it could be parents, it could be aunts and uncles. In our society, all those expectations are there. So women kind of shy away. If they have children, that's another thing. Okay, I don't have time for lunch. That lunch break, I'm going to go pick up my kid from school. I used to do that for many years. We need to let somebody else shoulder part of that, and we need to get our names and our voices heard and be more visible. We are very invisible.
I think it's also our culture.
Yeah.
In Pakistan, and I'm going to say this again, the privileged and the elite, they don't even have pictures on their Facebook. They're scared. It's a fact. And especially women. I mean, if you're women and you come from a family which is traditional, the men don't want you to take pictures. In Pakistan, when I started doing PR, people did not want their pictures taken and published in magazines. Suddenly, 5 years down the road, they came back to me and said, oh, who is this person? Why is he always in the photographs? And why am I not? I said, you don't want it. And that's not the way the world is anymore. If you're not seen, you are nobody. You have to do it for yourself. You have to create the brand. You have to have an Instagram. I'm sorry, we were discussing this back. You have to do it. You can have your son do it for you, and But if you're not going to do it, you're going to get lost. And your voice is important because you are the leader, you are the mentor, you're the one who's taken, yes, you've taken that stand and you've gone out there and you've showcased yourself, and it's not you barking up your own tree, it's everyone else talking about you. That's why you're sitting here. So it's very important to do it, and I think that's it.
Frieha's one of our role models for that. She's very good.
She's going to do that for me too. She promised. Absolutely. And yet, we all deal with brands. The objective is important. So if it helps you achieve what the objective is, it's imperative. So the brand has to have a purpose. Our purpose is to nourish hearts, lives, and communities. To be able to nourish hearts, lives, and communities, yes, I have to be embodying, and I have to be seen embodying what that means. So for me, to have a personal brand is depending on the business you are in, but I need to be living the company. And if I am living the company, if I'm the embodiment of my family and my company and my values and my company's values and what we stand for and what we've stood for 50 years. It's not me who's doing it right now. So I have to preserve that legacy, and yet I have to lead the change. So it, yes, becomes important that I sit here in front of you and talk about what I do. Is it something that, I really would want to do if it's not going to serve a purpose? Probably not. So I think the objective is as important as the brand itself, what the brand stands for. So like these wonderful women, they stand for very strong things. And they have to be brands because they stand for something bigger than the brand itself.
And we've talked a lot also about empowering those around you. So what can, talk to the room over here, to the men in the room as well. If we're going to make change happen, each one of us needs to play a role. So once we leave this room, what should we be looking to do differently? What can we do differently today or tomorrow to start making this change, to start supporting the women around us?
I think we need to definitely, I think especially for the women out there, you need to get out there, you need to network, you need to look around you and see people who can support you every step of the way. And it doesn't only have to be in your industry. I mean, I do a lot of stuff which is not traditionally related to advertising, maybe in the art world or in some other organization, in philanthropy. And you start making connections in the media world. So I think, again, women have to step out of their comfort zone, and they need to find people that can help them. And I think there are men. My mentors have been men, actually. And I'm proud to say that. One of them is my father. Another was a professor at college. So again, there are a lot of men out there who do support. I have wonderful friends within the industry, within the media, who are always, supportive, within the advertising fraternity, even competitors. They're all sitting there, and we have formed a fraternity. And I think that's wonderful. And platforms like AdAsia, association platforms, marketing platforms, those are all places, even academic. Get out there, do work on juries, go to educational institutions, go lecture, make connections. I think those are the kind of things that women need to do to start opening and pushing those doors. And I think there are a lot of helping hands there. I've never found really many people who'll slam a door on you. I think you just need to push at it a little, and it'll start opening up. And it's, I'm here if anyone needs it. I'm sure Frieha is here. Yeah.
The first thing we have to do is make it safer.
Yeah.
So a lot of women and girls out there are afraid to go to work because at some point someone's making them uncomfortable. There's been a lot of movement even in Pakistan on sexual harassment from the Me Too thing. I started something last year which was called Main Bhi, which was a movement to stop child abuse and sexual harassment. I think we, all of us as leaders, all the men, all the women in positions of leadership, have to make it safer. And even if you're not in a position of leadership, if you are sitting there and watching and seeing things, you can't. I have so many girls who come to work for me. A lot of girls come to me and work because their families know it's safer. I'm a woman, I'm going to make sure that the girls are safe there. That's not the way it should be. They come to me, they tell me, at a so-and-so multinational bank, something happened to them. It made them uncomfortable. And so I get lots of people writing into me, coming up to me and saying, this happened, that happened. We have to make it safer for them. The brothers, the husbands who don't let those girls, those 60% of girls who are graduates not working, there's a reason for it. And that's the reason, because they don't think those girls and their wives are safe out there. Let's make that environment, it's very important, all of us, to make that safe. Thank you.
And in addition to these very powerful messages, the message I would have for the women here is also treat your daughters and sons the same way.
100%.
And let your daughter-in-laws work if they want to. So the change has to come from within. Again, God does things in His own ways, and God uses good people to do great things. I grew up in a family where there were no brothers. So maybe the way all of us turned out had something to do with that. But I believe even if we did, my father would still think of me the way he does now, right? But the ones who do have sons and daughters, that's where it starts. Because trying to convert somebody who's already fixed in their views and biases is more difficult than what you are going to be nurturing. So if we want a better tomorrow, we have to start from our very homes, and we have to make sure that the women actually understand that it's important that their boys and girls are brought up in the same way and given the same freedoms and given the same choices.
And ladies and gentlemen, I think that sums up exactly what we can all do when we leave the room today. Incredible stories. Thank you so much for being so honest and open with us today. It's been a great discussion. Big round of applause for the panel. Thank you.
Wow, Tom Peggy.
काले रंग दा परांदा मेरे सजना ले आंदा नी मैं चुम चुम रख दी फिरा मैं पप्पा बार नच दी फिरा मैं पप्पा बार नच दी फिरा मैं पप्पा बार 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 खुशी विच नच्चा मेरे नाल मैया नचदियां कन्नां विच पाइयां होइयां वालियां कन्नां विच पाइयां होइयां वालियां नी मैं कुछ चक दी फिरा मैं काले रंग दा परांदा सजना ले आंदा चुम नी मैं चुम रख दी फिरा मैं
हर सितारा, हर शहर, हर गांव हमारा। पाकिस्तान का नंबर 1 डेटा नेटवर्क Zong 4G, एक नया ख्वाब।
Thank you, ladies, for your wisdom and telling us how to make the world a more inclusive and a better place. And our next speaker has made a business out of it. He is the CEO of World Services M&C Saatchi, and he founded the division, which is focused on tackling complex behavioral and social issues. Since launch, the division has enjoyed continued strong growth and now ranks as one of M&C Saatchi's most successful companies. Clients include a range of governments, INGOs, foundations, and multilaterals such as the UN, the Gates Foundation, USAID, DFID, and the Nike Foundation. Here to talk about how communication can tackle humanity's most challenging problems is Marcus Peffers, CEO of World Services M&C Saatchi.
Thank you, Atiya, and oh, it's clicked through. Sorry, and thank you, Ad Asia and Mr. Samad Ali. I don't know if you're here, for inviting me to your absolutely wonderful city of Lahore. Unlike Martin Sorrell and Richard Quest yesterday, I'm not a Pakistan virgin. I have been lucky enough to go to Karachi and Islamabad. Sorry, 2 seconds. Karachi and Islamabad several times before to visit our businesses there and also to support the work we do here in Pakistan with DFID and USAID and UNICEF, amongst others. It's also been a pleasure over the last few days to hear and see how much of the discussion has been about the power of communications to do good. I'm here today to continue that theme, to talk about how marketing and communications can help tackle some of humanity's most challenging and important problems. And having worked exclusively in the social change and political sector for the last decade or so, to give you a perspective on effectiveness and some of the broad lessons that we've learned along the way when you're changing attitudes and behaviors in line with a social purpose. One of the challenges of working for Saatchi is that most people think that you work for Saatchi and Saatchi. My mother still thinks I work there, and I know lots of people in this region do as well. I actually work for M&C Saatchi, and I have done since it was founded 25 years ago. And I was struck yesterday by Martin Sorrell's reminiscences of his time at Saatchi and Saatchi in the 70s and 80s. And two of my colleagues, Maurice Saatchi and Jeremy Sinclair, who founded Saatchi and Saatchi and also founded M&C Saatchi, and I still work with today, they used to say that in the 70s they had a little mantra, they used to say, which was, it's good to be big, it's better to be good, it's best to be both. And I can see that Martin Sorrell took that mantra to heart when he founded WPP and grew it into the huge company that he did. And it sounds like he's going to do the same at S4C Capital. Our point of view at M&C Saatchi is that our model is different. We tend to start up businesses from scratch rather than buy them. And the founders all have a significant equity stake in their business from the outset, which means that our intention is not to be that big, but just to be good and to be agile enough to be able to pivot to where the next opportunity or industry opportunity lies. We're about 3,000 staff, 70% digital, across about 50 or so communication disciplines, and we're in 26 countries. In fact, we're in 27 countries, because we've just launched in Pakistan proper, with the wonderful Imran Ershad. There we are, Imran, who I'm sure many of you know, and his fantastic team. And it's great to have a full service offering there now in Islamabad for the moment. About 10 years ago, in 2011, we set up World Services, which is a specialist division, social change division, exclusively focused on harnessing the best of Saatchi, sort of people, philosophy, capabilities, and experience to tackle humanity's most challenging and important problems, with a primary focus in developing markets and conflict-affected fragile states. So you can see why I'm here to talk about that today. 10 years later, we are now the world's largest social change marketing communications agency with about 250 dedicated staff. We operate, these are our hub markets, M&C Saatchi's hub markets, and we operate in a number of those, tackling social change problems there. But as I said, a primary focus for us is in developing markets and conflict-affected states and the particular challenges that brings. Probably the best summation of the issues that we work on is this very colourful chart, the Sustainable Development Goals. You may have seen it before, and I know that you're being presented on Sustainable Development 8 in a short while. Over the years, we've worked on issues in nearly all of those thematic areas, all of those boxes. I'll take you through a few examples. For example, in box number 6, we work with the Gates Foundation on sanitation, very important problem. 1 in 6 people has a sanitation-related illness at any point in time. There's Bill Gates at a conference we put on. We put on and convened this conference. There he is looking at a toilet. He's an engineer. He loves toilets. There he is on the stage. Less said about that, the better. That was his idea, not ours, to have that jar. And actually, it features in a documentary. If you haven't seen this, Inside Bill's Brain, do watch it. It's a very inspirational documentary about him. He's a very brilliant character. Other things we do, for example, in education, we educate children in refugee camps in Jordan and Lebanon and Syria. They've got very specific educational needs, and we do that with Sesame Street. Sesame, who are the world's biggest education charity. Who knew? And those little cuddly characters, there they are in some of the camps that we work in. We do a lot of work in stabilization, post-conflict, post-war stabilization environments. For example, in Somalia, and there we would do something like we would run a communications campaign to recruit a more diverse and nationally representative sample for the police force or for the army, which is very important when you're trying to reconcile a country. We do a lot of work in human trafficking, modern slavery. Here's work we do with DFID in the UK, and also with the Nigerian government about stopping Nigerian women being trafficked. It's quite a famous campaign in the region, in the Eto and Delta region. It's called Not for Sale. And again, we run those campaigns locally in Nigeria. It's about positive role modeling, really, trying to get people to stop leaving the area so they're less vulnerable to prostitution and human trafficking. And we do a lot of positive role modeling campaigns around the world. And then the last, just quick example of work we do is we do a lot of work around youth empowerment, especially around female youth empowerment. Just interesting listening to the conversation on the stage before. This we do with Girl Effect, Nike Foundation, actually do a lot of work in this area, empowering young girls around building media and creative platforms, to use those platforms as a way to talk to young women around their human rights and their life opportunities, and young men as well. The one on that side is called Zathu, and this one was created in Ethiopia, this one was created in Malawi, and we helped them develop that brand. And I'll just show you a short film which sort of explains the type of work that we do with Nike Foundation, or did. Do I click twice? So with Girl Effect, we help them design Zathu, we help them to establish the band then can be used for TV shows and radio shows and social media, anything you really need to use them for, to tell lots of different stories about sort of, opportunity and hope and important things like that. One of the advantages of working across, as you can see, multiple issues in multiple markets and many audiences at any moment across the world, is that at any moment in time, you get a very good snapshot of what is working and what's working less well, where you might be able to transfer thinking and cross-pollinate, best practice around audiences or around issues or around methodologies, and where new technologies are emerging and new techniques and can be adopted. And I'm going to talk about 5 broad principles which, in our experience, from the experience of working across all these issues, underpin most, not if all, effective social change campaigns. It's not rocket science. They underpin most effective communications. And then I'm going to illustrate it with some examples of our work at M&C Saatchi and work at World Services. The first thing to say is that changing behaviors is it's a messy and complicated business. Unfortunately, people don't do what you expect them to do. They don't do what you tell them to do. They don't behave rationally or logically, even when they're presented with evidence. The problems and contexts you have to deal with are usually multidimensional, multifaceted. They're often systemic, deep-rooted, either at an individual level or a social level, or even at a society-wide level. And the change that you require is usually generational. It's often generational, so you have to be patient. On the client side, the clients are normally governments or policymakers, and you therefore have to deal with all of the, I'm sure you experienced it, the machinations of dealing with government, not necessarily the most patient of organizations or people. So there's lots of challenges, and in our experience, given these challenges, success and failure are significantly affected by one thing, which is how well the process starts, how well the job to be done at the very start is framed and it's contextualized and it's understood by all parties. So to begin at the beginning, the first principle, the most important principle actually, is clarity. And what we mean by that is clarity on the role for communications and where it can have the most impact, and clarity on the task to be done and making it as precise and as meaningful as possible. And again, I know it's obvious, but it's very, very important. You'd be as amazed how many times you set off on a behavior change journey and everyone asks after about a month, a week, a year, exactly, they've forgotten where they're going because they haven't defined it up front. So let's take eradicating polio. So the role for communications, in this particular case, it's about being clear where the role for communications can have the most impact. Eradicating polio is within our grasp, and it will only be the second only disease after smallpox to be eradicated. It will require a very significant behavior change campaign to eradicate the disease. You need to convince vulnerable audiences to take vaccinations, and that will be a long-term, citizen-based behavior change campaign. But before that, there's a very key role for communications, and that's to make politicians in the UK and Germany, in this particular case, renew their funding commitments to eradicate polio, which is well over $1 billion of government aid funding, and I'm glad to say that funding's just been secured. To do this, it's an advocacy and campaigning campaign. We created a brand called One Last Push, which united foundations, with the Gates Foundation being one, foundations, NGOs, interested parties, interested citizens around this important cause. And I'll just play you a film now, which was in Germany. This was getting the German government to hold fast to their commitment. And this was a piece of advocacy film you can see that's trying to push up to try and get governments to hold fast to their commitments around polio. These are real people.
Was mir passiert ist, hat mein Leben für immer verändert. Es war ein unglaublich heißer Sommer und ich war ständig beim Schwimmen. Eines Tages bekam ich Fieber und meine Beine taten weh. Bald darauf hatte ich keine Kontrolle mehr über meine Arme und Beine.
Die Ärzte nannten es Kinderlähmung.
In der Schule habe ich gesehen, wie andere Kinder geimpft wurden. Aber für mich war es schon zu spät.
Mit einem Zuckerwürfel wäre ich immun gewesen, aber das hatte ich verpasst.
Wenn ich zurückdenke, sollte heute kein Kind mehr so leiden müssen.
Polio ist immer noch so grausam wie damals.
Der Unterschied ist, heute können wir das verhindern. Wir können Polio beenden.
Polio hat unsere Leben verändert.
Genau jetzt können wir das Leben von unzähligen Menschen beschützen.
Erinnern Sie den Deutschen Bundestag gemeinsam mit uns an diese einmalige Chance.
Helfen Sie uns, dafür zu sorgen, dass die Regierung ihr Versprechen einhält, Polio ein für alle Mal zu beenden.
So that was a very powerful film. We targeted that at politicians, made sure they saw it, made sure they saw it on their phones, made sure they saw it in cinemas near where they lived. So an important film. Oh, hello. Where we go? We've gone all the way back. Oh, they're back in. Another example about getting the task very clear up front is around the subject of obesity. Obesity is one of those, it's quite sort of ironic really, it's a great sort of modern world killer. More people, I think, now die from obesity-related diseases than die from starvation. So it's something that really needs to be tackled. In the UK, they got well ahead of it. In 2008, the then government took a very proactive stance on it and wanted to reduce the proportion of overweight children back to, by 2020, back to 2010 levels. And in response to that, we created a brand, oh hello, it appeared. We created a brand called Change for Life, which at the time was the world's largest, or Britain's largest, social change campaign. And it's still going strong today. And we started with this, which was the obesogenic map of the UK. This is basically the causal map of why everyone in the UK is overweight. As you can see, it's a thing of beauty, but it's absolutely useless if you're trying to do a behavior change campaign. And the trick with that was to work with the government to break it down into a very clear role for communications, which is prevention, not cure, in effect to try and grow a generation of children with much better eating habits and lifestyle habits. So prevention, not cure. It was families with children under 11, signed up within 12 months, with 8 specific behaviors to change. And these were the behaviors that we identified, or the government identified. And this is the basis. These priorities and these definitions of the audience and the definitions of timelines and KPIs were set out in 2009, and they've been the guide for all activity since. And I'll show you some of this activity. This campaign actually is the most awarded campaign in the UK strategically. So I'm going to reference it a couple of times through the presentation because it's a very good campaign to learn from. And there is some of the activity that sort of falls out of those behaviors that were needed to be addressed. So at the start of the campaign, clarity, what behavior you're trying to change, prioritize amongst which audience, express precisely numerically, timescales, KPIs, clear role for communications, whether that be advocating or whether that be social behavior change. And as I said, very often that doesn't get done, and the train departs the station on the wrong track. I suppose the sister or the brother of clarity when you're dealing with these messy problems is simplicity. We have always been good as an agency at M&C Saatchi, and Saatchi's have always been good at distilling sort of complex behavioral themes or issues down into sort of strikingly simple images, whether that be in health, or whether that be around refugees, or even if it's around politics. That's something we did that wasn't to keep us out of Europe, by the way, that was to keep us out of the euro. It's an important distinction. And obviously we have a big sort of political history of doing work with the Conservative Party. So we're good at distilling down those kind of images. But actually, it's important to have that, especially if you're in low literacy countries, to have those very striking images. But actually, the hard work starts at the top bit there, which is distilling the thinking down. We call it brutal simplicity of thought. This is our mantra as an agency now. We have this is on our wall in our office in London. It's easier to complicate than to simplify. Simple ideas enter the brain quicker and stay there longer. Brutal simplicity of thought is therefore a painful necessity. We have a tool which we use, which is, I won't go through in detail, but I'll give you some examples of it. And this tool helps us get to what we call brutally simple propositions and powerful propositions. I'll just give you a quick example of that. Recruiting officers, it's a traditionally really difficult thing to do in the UK. It's actually difficult, not difficult because lots of people apply. The main issue is that only 1 in 4,000 people gets through, but hundreds and thousands of people apply who aren't right. Whenever you run a campaign, you make it seem aspirational and loads of people apply, so it's very inefficient. The task with the communications, the behavioral task here, as many people to apply as possible, but being of the right type. So this was the proposition we ended up with, could you? And I'll play you a little film that shows that. But ultimately, we needed to make 999 out of 1,000 people realize that they couldn't be a police officer, but respect like hell the one that could. So it was a very effective behavior campaign. At the point of communication, you are filtering, which is a really important thing to do. And this is a film that formed part of a campaign. There was about 8 or 9 of these films, all of them with a celebrity. This is one with...
Separating a child from its parents has to be one of the most devastating things. But if you suspect that the parents have been abusing that child, there could be no other options. How do you bring yourself to do that when all the child wants to do is to stay with its mum and dad? I couldn't.
So it was a very powerful behavior change campaign around recruitment, actually, and it's, again, won a lot of awards for its effectiveness. In Change for Life, just going back to that little meme, this was the 3-box thinking on that. And the clever bit of thinking here, the really, painful sort of thought to get to, which we had to do lots of research for, was to reframe the problem. Lots of people reject obesity. They find it either offensive to be told they're obese, they don't believe they're obese, or they just ignore it. And actually, by reframing the problem, it allowed us to start to have the conversation that we needed to have. So parents take on a guilt, so we had to make sure that parents didn't feel guilty. We weren't blaming them, we were blaming modern life. This is the critical one, not talk about fat bodies. Fat bodies is a very pejorative term. Lots of people don't think they're a bit chubby. So we had to talk about fat in the body. And once you talk about fat in the body, then you can talk about the very dangerous consequences of that. And instead of sort of finger wagging at society to comply with this important new initiative, you've got to make it much more invitational to join in. And I'll just show you the TV ad that went with this, and you can see that thinking that played out. This is a launch ad.
Once upon a time, life was pretty simple. It could be hard. The food was pretty fast, but it could be fun. If we caught our mammoth, or bison, or whatever. Then, gradually, life changed. In many ways, it got easier. Nobody had to run around for their food. Or anything else much for that matter. Until one day we woke up and realised that 9 out of 10 of our kids would grow up to have dangerous amounts of fat build-up in their bodies, which meant they'd be more likely to get horrid things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes and cancer, and many could have their lives cut short. So we thought, that's not more of a life, that's less of a life, and that's terrible because we love the little blighters. Maybe we should get together with our kids and eat better, move more, live longer, and change for life. And we all lived happily, not exactly ever after, but more ever after than we had done. To get a free Change for Life information pack, call the number below.
So that was the launch ad, and that campaign's now been running for about 11 or 12 years. It's got a sort of like a Cockney English accent. It's quite hard to understand if you're not from there. But anyway, I can talk. But that campaign is the benchmark for how to do obesity campaigns globally, and of course, it's a very rising issue. So America have taken it on now. They're about to do a very similar campaign to that. They've taken all the thinking, as they do, and about to do a similar thing. As you can see, sort of with all of those campaigns, at the heart of them is sort of a built-in channel neutrality. And this is our third principle, and it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. It's one advantage our clients don't tend to have traditional marketing departments, so we can operate a bit more upstream, and we sometimes don't have significant budgets, so we have to make sure that the ideas we come up with are as generative as possible. And to help this, we often create a thing, a product or a service, or sometimes it's a person, and put them right at the heart of all the different channels, so where the task sits. And I'll give you a couple of examples of how we've done that in the past. This is, so engage 10 million young people with the SDGs. To do that, that was part of the My World survey, which is going to survey 10 million people. It's going to be the world's biggest survey. Our job was to help promote that around the world. And to do that, we chose the UN podium. We felt that if 10 million people couldn't come to the UN to express their point of view, then the UN would go to them. And that would be the campaign idea. So we put the podium at the heart of the idea. And we got Ban Ki-moon to sign it. And then he sort of like sent it on its way around the world for a year until it could come back in 2015 and come back to the United Nations General Assembly, having been around the world, helping garner views from all around the world, whether it be in a, it's all right. Shall I project? It's okay. That's all right. At least the timer stops as well. There we are. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Yep. So there we are. So we sent the podium around. Here it is in a village in Africa. People would stand at it, give their point of view. We'd capture that, and it would form a big part of a social media campaign. We sent it to Davos, and it went all the way around the world, as I said, and came back to the United Nations General Assembly. So there's a sort of quite simple idea, but you can exploit that all through different channels. This is a film that we made. I'm going to show you two films now, back to back. One of them has a creative idea, which was a very important lobbying campaign in the UK around plastics, to get plastic legislation changed. And the other one is, again, a Change for Life example about an app that we created. I don't have my phone here, but it's a very useful app. It allows you to see how much sugar is in products like cereal or Coca-Cola. And we came up with the idea of the app, and we built the app, and we gave it to government, and then it formed part of a huge campaign.
We live in a dangerous time. A new superpower is rising in the Pacific. A country 5 times larger than North Korea is amassing the greatest chemical threat ever known. Yet its aggressive expansion is being ignored. Governments refuse sanctions, and leading corporations continue to profit from it. The battle for the Pacific has already been lost. But this is just the start. Expanding its borders with the plastics we throw away, it threatens the entire planet. This is wasteland.
So yeah, it's quite a scary film. But anyway, unfortunately, you have to be quite scary around that issue to get people's attention. And that sort of wasteland idea, the island provided the sort of the centre point for all the activity we did. This one again is about directly getting kids to reduce sugar. Goes back to those that clarity around task 12 years ago, 11 years ago. This is something we did a couple of years ago. You could tell by the politicians who were all there. It was a happier time in British politics then. This is a little film about the app that we created and what we did with it.
Some British children are eating their own body weight in sugar every year. That's almost 5,500 sugar cubes, which is the weight of an average 5-year-old.
44 packets of sugar in this one. 44! Why don't you say specifically how much sugar there is in this can, for example?
Yes, it's prompted Public Health England to launch a major campaign about the dangers of too much sugar, complete with a new phone app to help parents.
This app, together with a new advertising campaign, has been developed to raise awareness of how much sugar is contained in food and drink and to help people switch to healthier alternatives.
For Becky, this means instant access to sugar content.
So 25 sugar cubes. 14.4 sugar cubes. Wow. Wow.
That's a big number.
So today I can announce that we will introduce a new sugar levy on the soft drinks industry.
The message is clear.
So the app there is a clever thing. It has the behaviour change baked into it, so mums use it, so that's the behaviour change bit, but then we also used it as a policy lever to help change government policy. The irony of that, of course, is that Coca-Cola is one of our biggest clients in the UK. For some reason, they don't mind about us doing both of them, but you can see there is a slight tension there sometimes. Sustainability, the ticker has run out, so I'm not quite sure how long I've got left, but I'll do these last two very quickly, assuming I'm about to run out of time. Obviously, the more generative the idea, the more chance it's got of lasting for longer. And much of the work that we do is about this building the sustainability of programs so they can continue after we've left or after the funding stream has stopped. That's a really important aspect of our work, which is different to the private sector. In Change for Life, for example, it was about making sure that it was very open source, so mums can use it and teachers can use it and doctors can use it. So we had a very open source platform in terms of the collateral that was used. So things like sort of Swim for Life would be done by a local swimming club. So they could download all the things and it could look like part of the campaign. And it was also about getting partners on board. So as you can see there, government funding has gone down dramatically, but partner funding has gone up. So that has sustained the campaign over that period of time. And that's why it's still such a significant campaign. Another thing that we do a lot is, well, it's two things we do, which is we do a lot of work in the counter-extremism and hate crime space. As you can imagine, that's a very big global issue at the moment. This is the UK's flagship counter-extremism and hatred program called Building a Stronger Britain Together. We created that program, and its task is to amplify positive voices in the UK to push back into that contested space against hatred and extremism. It's a brilliant program, actually. It's been going for about 4 years now. Again, it's a flagship program, and I suspect this will be rolled out globally. We've had a lot of interest from other governments on the markets, maybe even Pakistan. Our job is to create that umbrella brand to convene all of the parties, but in particular, it's to build a network of 350 civil society organizations. We, with the government, go and identify these civil society organizations. They're either voices or civil society organizations involved in this space. Some of them are quite pointy, some of them are quite soft. And our job is to build their capacity, to help them apply, to make them part of the network, to convene them together, and to build their communications capacity so they're more effective at pushing back into that space. And as I said, it's a brilliant program. It's it's got fantastic results, and you know, these people have far better reach into vulnerable audiences than the government does. They've got fantastic positive things to say. So that's about building capacity of other organizations, and we do a lot of that, and especially in this space. Final chart, 2 charts, is diversity. It's a bit of a buzzword. Everyone talks about diversity. We do believe in it. It's particularly important in our business. It's particularly important in a creative industry to have different types of people from different backgrounds, thinking different ways, and we believe it's a creative and strategic necessity. And at World Services, we really try and enshrine that and really try and bring that forward, not only in the marketing and communications space, having lots of different experts in marketing and communications, but also around the solution to bring people from client backgrounds. As I said, you need to really understand your clients well and the complexities of what they do. We also have a lot of issue subject matters and cultural subject matters, because we need to really understand the issues very well, as well in the locations we're doing stuff. And of course, if you're running campaigns in northern Nigeria or southern Mogadishu, you need to have brilliant local partners to help you do that work, to make sure it's the best it can be locally. And we work very hard at that ecosystem of local partners that we use and work with globally. So that's it, really. It's clarity, simplicity, neutrality, sustainability, and diversity. I'm sure you've heard lots of those words recently. To add one more buzzword to the mix, if there was one thing that was missing, it would be this word. And I know it's a cliche. Everyone talks about it. I think we're at peak passion in the industry at the moment. All I hear is about brand passion and brand purpose. But like many cliches, it is true. It is particularly important in this space when you're doing social change programs, because you have to care. You have to care about the work you're doing, and you have to care about the issue. And certainly the people who work at World Services really tend to join us because they are interested in trying to make the world a better place through the communication skills they have. So thank you very much.
Our next speaker has led the development of numerous successful ventures and projects. He is focused especially on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 8, which includes ending modern-day slavery, decoupling the economic development from environmental degradation, secure working and living environment for all workers, sustainably and substantially reduce youth unemployment by job creation and education for employment. Here to talk about the ending modern-day slavery is the founder of Global Sustainability Network, Raza Jaffar.
We realize implementation of Goal 8 because it's a very clear, specific target that by 2030 we are supposed to achieve Sustainable Development Goals.
We have decided, in our wisdom, to collapse the 12 aspects of the Global Goal 8 into 4 big ideas. Respecting human rights, global resource efficiency, full and productive employment, sustainable economic development.
Reaching Goal 8 will require the dedication and effort of all local and global leaders, leaders from faith, as we have with us today, governments, businesses, community, and the media.
Media can help accomplish Goal 8 of the Global Sustainability Network. Beautiful. And how music has a greater influence on the heart and soul than any of us may realize. Media can absolutely 100% be used to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth.
Clearly, as in the case with faith, a central role is raising awareness. Media has to give the voice to the youth and be the voice and give the voice to the people, the victims of slavery, and these voices are the voices that really need to be heard.
To avoid human trafficking, to defend the human dignity, and to act, because the gravity of the situation, we need to arrive to have actions.
We need to be concerned about the dignity of human beings and the dignity of the planet, the well-being of the planet. Modern slavery, as we speak, and as you well know, is an increasing crime and trade. And it's a very profitable business because it's much lower risk business to trade in people than it is in drugs, for instance. We're here to ask the question and help the structures that make society work and that we need to hold us together to help them adjust and push back against the crime and create freedom for brothers and sisters whose dignity is just being eroded and taken away. We're a network of people sharing commitment, sharing ideas, sharing inspiration.
The ultimate solution at the end of all the discussions and when it's all said and done is to affect people's value systems, to expose the evil for what it really is. And this is why it was such a monumental step in the right direction to get faith leaders from around the world to attend the summit at the Vatican and to sign that joint declaration.
We came up with a law and policy on ending modern-day slavery and human trafficking by bringing it within corporate responsibility and corporate governance.
Support the Goal 8 initiatives by developing itself as an even more credible and enabling platform as an endorser of business initiatives and projects by educating, refining the messaging to the new and existing generation of business leaders and influencers.
I've heard this said over the last 10 years many, many times that the issue of modern-day slavery or the affiliation movement has a branding problem, and I think that's true. That's because lots of ideas continue to pop up. Is there a way where we can come together under one affiliation?
And when we started this conversation on our table, all of us we didn't know each other, but in an hour we are best of friends. So this platform is actually doing this for us. We are all together, we are all becoming aware, we are all learning.
And that's why it is imperative that all key stakeholders in the world should come together and forge strong alliance.
Goal 8 is about economic growth, which is sustainable and inclusive. We need a tide which lifts all ships and ports, large and small. That's what we need, equitable growth.
I am hopeful that the Global Sustainability Network can use this event to identify targets and goals for each sector in 2017 that are attainable and measurable. All of us at Education for Employment look forward to working towards the goals that you determine.
The conclusion for 1 year's work, which started with Monsignor Sanchez, Bishop Alistair, and myself working towards putting a group together, a family of the founders of GSN who are all here in this room, with the objective of coming up with a strategy that encourages collaboration all over the world in 5 different sectors: in faith, government, businesses, community, and media, to work collaboratively to achieve Goal 8 by 2030. Hello everybody. Thank you very much for being here and still have the stamina to sit through this. So thank you. I think you must have already gotten an idea about what is GSN. But in order for me to communicate better, I need to understand who's my audience. how many of you are aware of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals? Can I have an idea with a raise of hand? So far, I can see maybe less than 5% of the audience. So if that is the case, I would just repeat what is SDGs. United Nations has representation of 193 countries plus 3 more. Every country presents their own interests, but then from 2000 they started putting together a global interest in front of them. The global interest that they thought that the world should achieve and strive towards achieving. So 2000 to 2015, they worked towards achieving MDGs, which were the Millennium Development Goals. In 2015, they announced Sustainable Development Goals, which are valid from 2015 to 2030. That means all the member states of UN are signatory on this promissory note that they have all signed that they will achieve these 17 goals, which includes all the countries of Asia, as we are sitting in an event organized by AdAsia. I would request all of you to go back to your respective countries and do hold them accountable that they have promised something to achieve by 2030. Where do they stand, and are they going to achieve that, or that was just talk? Because talk is cheap, and that's what we have all been doing, and that's why the humanity is suffering and is losing the battle in many fronts. Today we talked about women empowerment. We talk about job creations. All these things that we are talking about, we are missing some few fundamentals here in this event so far. And I'm sure there's more to come about that tomorrow. Technology, innovation, gig economy. What's the job of future? How does future look like for all of us? When we are not prepared for tomorrow, we land up being in the situation we are in today, because we were not prepared for tomorrow for the last 100 years. Slavery is increasing day by day. How many of you believe that slavery exists in the world? Can you please show me a raise of hand on that? That's amazing. Now, that's really amazing to see that there is awareness of slavery coming into this world. About 10 years ago, we started this journey on trying to understand what is modern-day slavery, how can we map it and do some stock taking of it. So we launched a global slavery index. You can go on the web and find GSI. Global Slavery Index is something you will find ranking many countries, 169 countries, on how much slavery exists there. We're talking about Asia now. Asia has more than 50% population of the world, but unfortunately has almost 2/3 of slavery in the world. So we are doing something wrong in Asia as a continent. Top 3 countries that rank in slavery in percentage are Afghanistan, Pakistan, and North Korea. Top 3 countries that rank in slavery in absolute numbers are India, China, and Pakistan. Now, I think it's about time that we do something about it. It starts from top. That means job creation. Job creation happens when you have economic development. Sustainable Development Goals have 17 goals. Those 17 goals talk about everything. Since we started looking at slavery more than 10 years ago, we were talking about triple bottom line, sustainable economic development. Triple bottom line is about economic return, looking at your environmental impact, and looking at your social returns. We started talking about job creation and addressing youth unemployment. Recently, I came across a number that 1/3 of Pakistan population of 220 million is below the age of 14. Can you imagine the workforce that we will have to accommodate within the next 5 to 10 years? Are we ready for it? What jobs would they have? Where would they go? Where would their livelihood come from? Are we doing something about it today? We talked about jobs that Qatar offered to us, over 100,000 jobs. We were told that we could not find more than 15,000 suitable workers to fit that job. So jobs are available, training is not. Substantial training is missing. Quality training is missing. We have shortage of nurses in this country. Because nurses, when I was doing some research, I wanted to find out how many wound care nurses are there in this country. Wound care, especially with diabetes on the rise, is a very specialized field. There are less than 60 nurses that we could find nationwide who were specialized in wound care itself. There are a lot of people who you could see that they are nurses, but they are qualified nurses. Most of the places the nurses are coming from, or rather, one of the most reliable places the nurses come from is from Aga Khan University. There are not too many specialized nursing institutes. We have 220 million people. We don't have a solution for our health. No matter who pays for it, at the end of the day, there has to be availability of it. If there are big cars available, if there are big houses available, I think we need some quality health care as well. Right? People can afford all these things. I think this is the time we start talking about how we can find solutions. Right? There are some amazing good news coming out of Pakistan as well. I came across a wonderful lady who in Sindh has been freeing the bonded laborers and providing them with housing. There are many organizations, I think even yesterday we were talking about, there are many organizations in Pakistan who are doing amazing things for helping the poor, helping the enslaved. This government, I'm talking about 7 years ago, we came here, and at that time, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif was the chief minister. Irrespective of any politics, I must tell you, he put his hands on the nerve of this situation and he took action immediately and he started working on it. I flew out, spoke to Mr. Imran Khan, he immediately worked on it as well and he gave his full support. That means there is no politics in trying to save humanity. Everybody over here in Pakistan is willing to do good. I think Pakistan is one of the most charitable countries in the world. It is true. I'll just quickly now take you through what GSN does. GSN, after the SDGs were announced, we thought ending slavery, job creation and youth unemployment, and sustainable economic development were all put on one goal. So we chose to focus on one goal out of the 17 goals, and that is goal number 8. After we made the effort, and I'll just take you through this. This is the basic introduction of GSN. We say if we want to achieve goal 8, UN has announced it. Has UN achieved everything they keep on announcing? I don't think so. I don't think they are really the most effective institution around the world when it comes to social good so far, because they're not extremely well coordinated. But we can sit on the fence and keep pointing fingers and keep blaming people, but I think it's about to take things in our own hand and take action, take a substantial action. We said, all right, let us pick goal 8. We are going to form a group of people who truly care. Even if it's just 10 people, we don't mind, but we want sincerity. We want to keep the ego out of the room, and we want to find a collaborative platform where people come and work together in achieving this goal. So we started putting the faith together, the government, the businesses, media, NGOs, and now we have included the academia to come together and let's work together in achieving goal 8. The background of that comes from us trying to understand with our friends who are in media and advertising and marketing and communication. When we rank all the countries, we say, all right, 169 countries, 45 million slaves around the world. How do we reach out to people? We need to change consumer behavior. Our experts on marketing, some of them were from Australia, some from US, some from UK, kept on telling us, you need reliable, convincing voices to reach out to masses. And one of the best ways to do it, to get all the faith leaders on your side, because there's a mosque or a synagogue or a church or a temple somewhere or the other in the world. If you want to reach out to the whole world in the most cost-effective manner, you need faith leaders to come together. So, one of the things we did was we got a first fatwa against slavery in 2013. Then we spent 2014 trying to convince all the other faith leaders. We got the fatwa from Grand Imam of Al-Azhar. We then found Grand Ayatollah to endorse it. We got Pope Francis. We got Church of England. We got David Rosen, the rabbi. We got the Buddhist, the Hindu. And we got all of them together in one room on 2nd December 2014 to sign a joint declaration against slavery. This was the joint declaration that everybody signed up. So, those of you who can read fast, please go ahead. It was very difficult for just two sects of the same faith to sign one document. But we were patient enough. By removing the ego, we could go and sit outside the offices and doors of many mosques and synagogues and all, get people to sign this declaration. Once this declaration was signed, we went out to United Nations using all our influence through our friends, countries, and influencers to reach out to United Nations to include ending slavery in SDGs that were to be announced in 2015 September. One of the barter deal that was done was Pope Francis agreed to go and address the United Nations if ending slavery was included. At that time, Obama was visiting the Vatican, and there was a 6-point agenda that was prepared for Pope Francis to speak to Obama about. I was flown in over there where we added 2 points on youth unemployment and ending modern-day slavery. These are the goals. Decouple economic growth from environmental degradation. What it means is we do need to have an economic development, but not at the cost of damaging our environment. When we talk about making more of textile denim jeans, we do want to worry about what happens to our indigo dyes. When we talk about leather exports, when we talk about bricks, when we talk about all industries, this does not by any chance mean that we should not be doing industrial growth, but we should be doing with sense of responsibility, because there is always a good solution for doing the right thing. Sorry, I'll just add on one more thing. 8.5 and 8.6, youth unemployment and jobs. I am of the opinion, because I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization, I'm just speaking on my personal views. So it could be right, wrong, but these are my personal views. Most of the nations who spend so much money on defense are probably looking at a bigger threat from the youth uprising in the next 10 years, because the kind of jobs that will exist in future we are not trained for, and the kind of jobs that we have today may not exist. So watch out for threats within your country if you don't prepare yourself for dealing with the youth of tomorrow. We have gatherings very regularly. We decided that instead of meeting once a year and just talking about things, let's meet 4 times a year like a corporate does. We have 4 board meetings to look at quarterly performance of our organization. So if we have already announced the target, but that by 2030, we are supposed to achieve this goal. In that case, I was just wondering, my screen disappeared. I was like, what happened there? Okay, no, good, I can see everybody. When we started looking every quarter, we are questioned by all our members. First of all, we keep moving the place so we get more and more diversity, and we keep expanding. We started off the first meeting with 20 people in London. Then we decided we're going to meet 4 times a year. We're going to meet in the Vatican once a year. We meet at the House of Lords or Church of England once a year. We meet at the UN headquarters during the General Assembly once a year. And once we meet in Dubai, in order for people from the region to come to and represent themselves over there. So this is our picture out of Lambeth Palace, from the Vatican, from the United Nations, and from Dubai. This organization, within the last 3 years, or rather now it is 4th year, but within the first 3 years, grew so fast internationally that it started to make a serious impact worldwide when it came to this subject. In February, we were invited to Mexico because there was a bill that was not going through the Senate and the Parliament on this subject. And we took our GSN there. We went there for 3 days. First day, we had a presentation to the Parliament, and it was discussed and passed through, and the following day, it passed through at the Senate. And the laws are being implemented as we speak. 14 years ago, I was invited to New York by a Rockefeller Foundation where Nelson Mandela was being given an award. I was really, really impressed that I'm sitting amongst the most wonderful people of the world. The only names we have heard about the Gates Foundation, Gates and the Rockefellers and the Buffetts, etc. 14 years later, this award includes Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Prize winner, Nelson Mandela, and Mayor Bloomberg, etc. This award was given to GSN in recognition of global bridging leadership. Thank you very much. This is the movement of all the people. So it's no individual's movement, it's not a country's movement. It is a movement where now we have 1,500 very serious members. Each member is an institution of their own. So we are all working together and trying to achieve this goal. I think this is the number. These were some of the numbers I was getting on Pakistan. I'm not going to go too much on it because I've also been told that every country that we talk about, whether I was in Mexico, whether I'm in UAE, whether I'm in Thailand or anywhere, every country says, our name is being ruined by these sort of numbers because that does not reflect the facts. So we understand that. We don't think it's 100% right, but it may be 95% right. And if these are not the numbers, please send us the correct numbers and the proof that you are right. Because till that time, we will take the public information and they'll keep getting printed in Global Slavery Index because these numbers seems to be on the rise. This was the lady I was talking about, Sangeeta. This is what she does. I keep hearing the stories about brick kilns over here. I keep hearing the stories about how to move forward on these areas. There is no end to us doing whatever we can, but I think we need to take the first step today, whatever that first step may be. I don't think any one of you can tolerate slavery around you or in your supply chain. I think it's about time that we start asking ourselves that whatever we are wearing, whatever we are eating, if we are using the bricks for our house or offices, is there any slavery involved in it? And if it is so, it's not acceptable, or it should not be acceptable. So I would like you guys to please note down that we do have members who are here in Pakistan already. We have got our two supporters and founding members right here, Mr. Asif Sana and Mia Mancha, who have been attending all the meetings as well internationally. We have got supporters also who are around. We want to make a Pakistan chapter. In order for us to be effective globally, we have to be present everywhere locally. And the people who are here locally really need to get together and create a platform, not to go and launch more initiatives. Find the initiatives that are already existing in your country, bring them on one platform, support them and find collaboration amongst themselves so that they are more efficient, and then also be able to give them credibility on the international platform so they can really take advantage of global donations. You know, there's a lot of money available from DFID, from Gates Foundation, from Buffett Foundation. Quite a few organizations have the money to give, but we don't have the platform which sort of endorses any organization or gives credibility to them or teach them how to be more effective in trying to expand their initiatives. So this is one of the things we want to achieve. Now, I understand you guys all have been listening to a lot. I really, really would like to hear from you what you have to do, what you have to say, and what are your questions. So please, anybody with any questions? And before leaving, I'm going to give you guys a telephone number to contact. That's Asif's personal number. I'm just kidding. It's not his personal number. I'm going to give you a number which you guys can call in order to register your interest in working towards this agenda. Meanwhile, any questions? Please. Ladies first. Yeah? Just 1 second. I think we've already got the mic. Zeelaf, we are taking your cue on it, giving women empowerment. So
as far as Pakistan's concerned, the numbers are really disturbing. What kind of legislation is in place in Pakistan against human trafficking and this kind of, does legislation exist? Or is there any, advocacy or something going to happen to make sure that legislation is in place? Because that would be the first step, right? Implementation is another huge step. But I think, I'd just like to ask you, about the legislation right now in terms of human trafficking.
Very good question. If you don't mind passing this mic to Asif, before I'll just say a few words before Asif speaks, but you can give the mic to Asif Sana. You can just, you see, human trafficking or ending slavery does not mean only one thing, right? It is legislation on bonded labor. There's legislation on organ trafficking. There's legislation on forced marriages and human trafficking, etc. So there are different areas that are involved in human trafficking, right? I would just say, I'll ask Asif because he brought somebody from the legislative side. Please.
Well, is it on? Yeah. In the interest of time, I'll give you a very brief answer. Raza and I had a conference on a similar topic on 4th of April 2019 in the presidency, which was patron of the conference was the President of Pakistan himself, the very senior representative of the current government, and in the past governments, the senior representatives of the past governments have also been participated. There is absolutely no resistance from this government or the previous governments to make acts of parliament to end the modern slavery in Pakistan. Actually, the current government has taken very active role, and they are looking for guidance and contribution that how can we make brand Pakistan successful with the elimination of slavery from our supply chains and with the elimination of slavery from the damaging image of brand Pakistan, that in the outside world some of the products are not being supplied and accepted by the multinational chains because there is this perhaps false impression that there's too much enslaved labor in Pakistan, which might be a reality, but we want to eradicate that. So the government is more than willing, and the current legislation, which is already enacted, if the private sector, the government, the community, and the civil society just make sure the enforcement of existing laws, I think half of the slavery will be finished. So once we achieve the existing status and by implementing the current laws, then we can demand on the government for further enactment. So there is no resistance. There are enough laws in place to eliminate, at least take the first few steps towards the elimination of slavery. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
My question was very similar to what Seema asked, but specifically I noticed there was a grading of C for government action.
Sorry?
There was a grading on the chart you shared, and it said C. I just wanted to understand that.
The chart was it? Sorry?
If you go back to the chart you had of the number, yeah. So just bottom left of that chart.
This one?
No, the next one. Yep, government response rating. So there's a C there, and I just wanted to know a little bit more about what does it take to get it to B.
You've been to university, right?
Yes, so that's a bad grade. And I just want to understand what the levels, how do you get to B and A? And secondly, I just also wanted to understand, so there are laws against child labor, for instance, in Pakistan, yet we see a lot of it. So is this mostly an implementation issue?
Okay, so I'm going to draw a fine line between child labor and a forced child labor. Right? Child labor is not acceptable. Right? But at the same time, slavery definition includes forced child labor. Right? So if a father wants his son to be a cobbler with him at the age of 14 and after school he comes and works with him, he's learning a trade. Right? And internationally, it'll be considered as child labor. But what's right, what's wrong, I really don't want to get into that. I just want to be clear that as long as it's not forced child labor, because we went through this discussion globally, that let's have a clear definition and then move on it. So that was one part of it. Right? The other part is when you're talking about doing grade C, right? Grade C is not a grade for any school, university, or business, or promotion, or anything. So it's very clear what grade C means. But at the same time, when I'm going into different countries, each country is in a different phase. You know, have you ever heard of a term dada in case of any accident? You go through a phase of dada, which is denial, anger, depression, and then acceptance. No matter what the bad news is, you end up getting this reaction whenever. We are in the denial phase. I came here 7 years ago. We were in the denial phase. So I personally have not seen much progress in that. Denial phase, in a circle of people, I think 80% on the circle of people where I really thought was the quick win, that, you know, we all understand, we all come from similar background, that how can we tolerate it? And it was just jokes that, oh, we are the slaves of our wives. How come we are not included in that? And, you know, all kind of jokes were thrown, but nobody took it seriously. Very, very few people understands that there is a problem. So a lot of social unacceptable behaviors, we are not really accepting it. So I think we are still at that stage. We need to make more progress, and that's why I'm really making an effort to come out and talk to you all to please, let's all get together and take it more seriously in this country. Please, can I have you?
The entire presentation I have gone through, you are involving the opinion leaders from all across the globe in faith, in government, in other sectors. But incidentally, the presentation we just had before yours was on communication for behavior change.
Right.
Are we working under this umbrella towards any such initiative where common people can be given more awareness on slavery, its forms, and how to go about it?
Sure.
Any advocacy?
You've really hit the nail on the head. That's why if you go back to our first list that I made, media, right? Which includes drama, which include movies. You know, about 8 years ago, we went out to most of our friends in Hollywood, and about 5 years ago in Bollywood, asking them, don't change the movie. When you show a bad guy, instead of the bad guy doing drugs, can you show this bad guy to be a human trafficker or something? Now, that doesn't affect their movie. Other than one person didn't even ask us for the correction in the copyright or copywriting. Only one person said, I need to change the story a little bit, so it needs extra little bit of money. But nobody asked for a penny, and we started with subliminal messages that, movies are showing bad guys to be human traffickers in some form or the other, right? Now it's going to start on organ trafficking. Keep watching, you will see there'll be more and more heat coming on organ trafficking. Okay? So media is very important. One of the reasons we took faith is also to look at changing consumer behavior. So your consumer behavior comes from looking at a peer group and also your religious following. Sir.
I'd like to felicitate you for the very valuable work you're doing. This particular niche, Pakistan should be proud of having someone associated with it which is leading this. You mentioned NGOs as one of your 5 partners. I just want to say that while the problem does exist in Pakistan, there is a large number of very dedicated, competent NGOs who are conscious of this problem and are working at the village level, rural areas, and even in urban areas, because there is slavery in some parts of large cities as well. That's the extent of the slavery. It's not called slavery, but de facto, it is slavery. So I just want to suggest that you create a coalition kind of networking, and the number of NGOs I'm associated with in a voluntary capacity, we are already working on this. We offer to network with you and give you the kind of support you may be looking for.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I like to build on that. I've had a lot of experience working with the rural population.
I'm just trying to figure out. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, I've got a lot of experience interacting and working with rural population. I feel the 2 basic principles that are hampering that population is the vulnerability and the greed. So
one is what?
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Okay.
And the greed, because you mentioned about the father making his son work. Because if the education levels improve, so there are 2 things. To feed the family, either it's greed or these people are too vulnerable to practices and it forces them to do such things. So have you taken a deep dive down into Pakistani rural segment areas and maybe the tribal areas as well to explore these issues?
That's a good point. I'm just going to go back to Mr. Jabbar's point. I want to first of all thank you. One of the purposes we are here is to start GSN Pakistan. And GSN Pakistan is supposed to just provide platform to make sure that we empower. So if you are part of GSN Pakistan, I think it's a great achievement of the whole event that at least we brought Aid Asia people together with GSN globally. So we want to extend invitation. So mention. So here it is. This is fantastic. Mia Saab has been very big supporter of the whole affair as well. Very quietly, nobody knows he's been part of it, and I think most of the people in GSN are just making sure that we don't take the spotlight away from the heroes of the world, who are saving people.
Hello.
We don't need spotlight on GSN. We need spotlight on those people. Any other questions, or shall we just... Oh, sorry, yeah. Just 1 second. All the questions are coming from the front row, so anybody in the back want to ask question? I feel a little lopsided here. Okay. No, here you have.
So I work with child abuse, especially.
Sorry?
I work with child abuse and sexual child abuse with some of the NGOs.
Right.
So what I find happening in Pakistan, I'm going back to the government part of this, is that it goes through one bill and then there's another bill and then there are the roadblocks all the way along. I think until you make a lot of noise about these things, things don't really come to fruition. So I think that is a huge problem. So even if you have the society and people over here, civil society, wanting to do the work, you find that at some level you get stuck with these things. And what can we do to move things along in that direction?
Make a lot of noise, like you said, and it's the only solution anywhere in the world. We do need to make a lot of noise. Now, I would just thank you all. And one last thing I'm going to say before leaving, that a point discussed during, okay, sorry. Just 1 second, I'm going to make one point, and then I'm going to ask you this question. Point discussed during the Women Empowerment Group was the effort that half our workforce are women. If we're going to talk about sustainable economic development, what is missing is innovation. And if you look at the global success right now, it's happening by the youth coming up with innovative ideas, using technology, where we have a serious need of venture capital promoting such people. For Women Empowerment Group, I would seriously urge your ladies in powerful positions to specially create venture capital arm of your groups to find opportunities with geniuses that you have in the country, people who have made Kareem, people who have made Airlift, people who have made Baikia, people who are making amazing opportunities. I mean, I was discussing at a dinner last night that the only thing I'm hearing from international investors are not looking at investing in energy or in roads and all that. They're looking at youth of Pakistan is doing really good. Ventures in Pakistan, great opportunities. So I think that we need to mobilize the women. We need to train them better. I was going to ask a question for which I already knew the answer to, but I didn't get an opportunity from Zeelaf that, you know, EBM is one of the few organizations which does have a provision for women play school for the children, and I think more organizations need to incorporate that so that women can come to work, bring their kids, and keep them there. One thing I think Pakistan does not have very effectively is the maternity leave policy. It could be a paid leave for 3 months, but it should also be an option of unpaid leave for 2 years, because that's something that is going to hamper a lot of people from leaving their kids behind, or they lose good jobs. So that was it. Sorry for a long answer. Yes, please.
My name is Rubia Jalani.
I cannot see you. It's okay. All right.
My name is Rubia Jalani. I'm Secretary of English Literary Society and one of its family founding members also. My question is this. My question is on interfaith dialogue.
Interfaith dialogue. Oh, yeah?
The question is this, that why don't we organize conferences and they bring together the Jews also, Christians also, communists, socialists, Muslims also, and we can ask them where in their holy books is written to kill person. We cannot kill person. And what Taliban say that we are doing crusade, this is not crusade at all. This is just I'm writing a book on it, and I have quoted verses from the Holy Quran, which does not say to kill. We can't kill not a Muslim, any other person also. So if you bring a delegation of Taliban on this, and then Al-Qaeda or whatever, Daesh, they can come, we can make them realize that what they are doing is wrong.
I agree. I'm sure nobody allows atrocities in any religion. I think we have already gotten the faith together to agree on slavery-related issues. Thank you very much. I hope we'll have a call to action. Thank you. Just want to give one number to you. If anyone wants to note it down, I'm going to read it out carefully. Okay, it is 0331 88 88 180. So 0331 88 88 180. Asif Sana. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raza Jaffar. Right, so first I'm going to start with some good news. So Fernando Machado will be here tomorrow, the CMO of Burger King. A lot of people had come especially for him. So thank you so much, Asia, for making it happen, even though it was difficult. He will be here tomorrow. And we just have 2 very small talks left, and there is going to be a very exciting talk at the end. So just stay tuned for that, right? And you know, the reason that a lot of us came to Asia was to meet some fantastic people, people we have not met in years. It was a networking opportunity. It was also an opportunity to see some splendid ideas on stage. And the bigger thing was motivation. And here, who better to give you a motivational talk than Niaz Malik, who will come in on stage and introduce himself. Put your hands together for the brave Niaz Malik.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Azbhai. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa nahmaduhu wa nasalli ala nabiyyil kareem. I'm so excited to be here. And first of all, what a great day to be alive. You know, I just dodged death by a very small margin. So every day when I wake up, you know, I thank God that I have another day. And I want to share my experiences with you. So there has been a lot of change in terms of what we wanted to do tonight. There's supposed to be 3 legends that's supposed to be here with me, the outdoor legends, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. Titar-bitar ho gaye, lihaza they have asked me, you know, to come here and to talk to you. And so I had a lot of questions from them, and I thought that we will learn from them a lot in terms of their experiences, but here I am. And I'm really looking forward to a very, very interactive session moving forward. I'm extremely thankful to Ad Asia, Javed Jabbar Saab and Samad Ali Saab and Hamza Bhai and you know, Ali Mandiwala for putting this together and bringing us back onto the international map again. And I hope that this conference will make a great difference. And I really wanted to give a warm welcome to all the delegates. And I hope that you are enjoying this historical city, Pakistan. And I wish that you will spend some more time here to see this, the beauty of this country and the hospitality of our people. For those of you who do not know me, since she has asked me to introduce myself, my name is Niaz Malik, and I was the Deputy CEO of China Mobile in Pakistan, known as Zong. I worked extremely hard with my teams to bring 4G technology to the Pakistani markets at a time when a lot of people had a lot of concerns and questioned whether it made sense. However, it provided a paradigm shift in terms of how our nation consumes and uses data today. It also became a beacon of hope for a lot of people to realize their own dreams, their own goals, and their own objectives. And it also provided a new platform for our businesses to build new ecosystems to serve their customers and hence increase their revenue streams and profitability. So I'm extremely excited about that. And I take a lot of pride in that also. I have also worked in the North American markets with some top Fortune 50 companies in the areas of mergers and acquisition, technology, strategy development, and business strategy. So I have a lot of experience on that front also. Also, another thing, you know, working on, beside running large-scale organizations, I was also a mountain climber, someone who enjoyed rock climbing. I was also a diver, a pilot, and someone who enjoyed parachute jumps and a pilot. And so life has been an adventure for me throughout my life, in my professional career, and also in my personal domain. About 3 years ago, I met a fatal accident and I got paralyzed from the neck down. So, and the minute I woke up, I realized that I had to basically climb the biggest mountain of my own life. And at that time, obviously I didn't know what to think, but I think one of एक हमारे शायर हैं मुनीर नियाजी, उनका मुझे एक शेर याद आ रहा है कि एक और दरिया का सामना था मुनीर मुझको, मैं एक दरिया के पार उतरा तो मैंने देखा. So I realized that, you know, at that particular time, I felt so minuscule, so powerless, so hopeless, and the journey ahead seemed so paramount. But this ability and, you know, being an outdoor guy provided me with a lot of hope, the enthusiasm, the courage, the perspective, and the ability to focus and a persistence to move one step at a time, keeping the bigger picture in mind. So here I am after 3 years, you know, standing or sitting in front of you, enjoying these beautiful moments. And the other important part that I start realizing is that a lot of people in our country lose hope. And hence I became my mantra to make sure that I provide the, you know, essence of hope to a lot of people who give up in terms of adversity, when they are met with adversity. I also help, and by default, I became a motivational speaker based on my professional and personal experiences in life. And also, I help a lot of CEOs and sit on the board of directors of various different companies to provide them to deal with the change and transformation that is required in the upcoming years, because the markets are changing very, very rapidly. And so the business needs to be very agile and responsive to the customer needs. So that is something that I do. But what I really want to do today is that you have seen probably a lot of PowerPoints. So I don't have a power and neither do I have a point. I guess ये तो जो आप लोग, you know, आज साथ लेके जाएंगे इस मेरी कहानी के बाद, you know, I think that if you take something with you, it will be a great success of mine. I want this to be a dialogue and an interactive dialogue where you can ask me different questions. Obviously, a lot of people that are sitting here are coming, you know, with a very strong background with regards to being professionals. You are working in various different companies, a lot of aspirations that you might have, a lot of goals, that what it takes to be successful, because I was one of the youngest CEOs, and what happens when it all evaporates? What happens when that you work hard for something, immensely dedicate yourself every day, day in and day out, and one day we wake up and you don't have that anymore? I want to talk about that with you guys. I want you to ask me questions about that. I want to talk about the teamwork. I want to talk about the resolve. And I want to talk about the passion that is required in order to get up and stand again with a greater hope that when you lose something, that you gain on multiple fronts. And how is it that you look at life from the gaining perspective? And what is it, and what kind of attitude that is required, that is done in order to achieve that? When I graduated in 1994, I did my O-levels. My father gave me this beautiful gift. It's a book called What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. And since then, I've been, you know, reading these self-help books. But then life tests you in multiple ways. At the age of 17, I launched a company and I got about $3.5 million in venture funding in the United States. And then later on, 2 years down the road, because I was so young, so naive, so innocent, and so inexperienced, I kind of bankrupted that company. And then, you know, one of the major consulting companies brought me on board. And hence, you know, a whole new experience started being a consultant in Manhattan. And so I started my life from multiple different angles. And in most cases, I started from, ground zero. And what it takes, and what is the essence of failure? We are all very mindful of and fearful of losing. But by losing, we gain on multiple fronts. And I want to talk to you about that. I want you to ask me questions about how that happens. Just a small thing, living in this country, obviously we need to create a lot of awareness for a lot of people who can't walk on their own two legs. मुझे 3 पुलसरात पार करके यहाँ आना पड़ा. First one is when I entered into the major gate, because it is not really handicap accessible in a proper manner. Then through the corridors, and then ultimately over here. And then, sitting on this specific, ये जो stage है, cardboard का बना हुआ और ना जाने नीचे किस किस्म का metal है, you never know what will happen next. But the thing is that we need to be very mindful of what is happening. The countries have moved on, people have moved on, societies have moved on, and we have to be very, very mindful in terms of how we are dealing with different people in societies who are not able to have all the luxuries that you have. And a lot of times we take, our things for granted. And we are so discontent with life that we are always complaining. And one of the things that I have learned, after my accident, that we have to be very mindful of the great luxuries, smaller luxuries that God has given us in the form of good health, in the form of an ability to think through things, and the ability to cherish our moments with our families and friends. And this ability to be fearless, no matter what happens to our existence. And this ability to stand tall in terms of any challenges that comes along the way. And you see that, and you hear that, and you read that in a lot of different books. But what one goes through when you lose everything, and the only thing that is left with you is hope. Can my hope make the difference? Can we really see things in a different way when there is nothing left? Right? So when the doctors told me that I will not be able to walk again, right, I went through a major chaos in my life. But I was very lucky to have a very strong family, a great circle of good friends, some of whom are here with me today. And I'm so appreciative of all those helping hands that made sure that I was never alone. I had great colleagues that were always there for me, and who has always helped me in making sure that I had the right perspective. So I want this to be more of a dialogue rather than me pumping you up. Sure. And I would like you to ask me questions, because I know that you must be sick and tired of listening to all the presentations and the videos by now. And let's talk things out. Niaz Bhai.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Many moons ago and many years ago, you made me a phone call when I was heading a bank. You said, Mr. Sana, you and I were not on first name basis. You said, Mr. Sana, your management does not understand that if they do not partner with me in financial inclusion and reach my customers, they will miss a very big opportunity.
Yes.
My response to you was, young man, not only that this will miss an opportunity, my bank will be actually missing the greatest gateway of payments and will be out of the transactional business if we do not partner with one of the telecom companies. We met, and you told me what the necessary strategy was. The obstacle was huge. But you said, we have to transform. You just used the word transformation. Pakistan today, as it is similar crossroads, the brand Pakistan could be eliminated from the word supply chains if the slavery is not eliminated. In the context of that conversation more than a decade ago with the gateway of payment, today, how do you suggest a strategy for brand Pakistan can be made where slavery can be eliminated and brand Pakistan is back on the roadmap of the world as a new economic force? That's the survival of Pakistan. Not only the politics within the country, but the economic survival and the social fabric are two major challenges of the society. So enlighten us with your experience and enlighten us with your thoughts and personal experiences. How do we address this enormous challenge of eliminating slavery from our lines? What kind of thought in the civil society, in the private sector, in the business organization, and some of the corporate leaders who are sitting there, how can we together transform this brand Pakistan into a new economic powerhouse without slavery in our supply chain?
Thank you. This is what happens when you have such a smart friend. You know, always put you on a spot with a difficult question. You know, I am so extremely thankful to you. What Asbhai is talking about is, you know, a long time ago, I was, you know, in Zong, and he was, you know, on the board of Faskri Bank, and we worked extremely hard in order to ensure that we have a collaboration in where people could actually take the benefit of financial inclusions, and we are able to provide the access to ordinary Pakistani people. When we brought 4G technology, a lot of, as I said in the beginning, a lot of people questioned it, and we spent almost $1 billion in the 8 months time period in order to upgrade our networks and also to get the licenses. And that brought a major transformation in our society, in a sense that if you take a look at it, a lot of young individuals are able to do a lot of things that they were not able to do before, right? They have access to their dreams through this window, you know, called the 4G networks, and I'm extremely, as I said, proud of that. Now, with regards to slavery, I'm one of those people that have a greater hope for our country. And there are multiple reasons for that. First of all, we are living in the most stable world since the beginning of history. And Javed Jabbar Sahab, you know, in the beginning, you know, it talked about touched about this particular area. That, you know, when we take a look at the process of the history itself, and we see where the humanity is now, you know, this is the most prosperous time. That's the first thing. And there are many reasons for that. If we take a look at, you know, just the age factor in terms of people used to live 30 years and now we are touching an average age of about 70. If you take a look at the prosperity in terms of the global GDP, where we stand today and where we were before, you will see that there is a 300 pixel point increase on that front. If you take a look at the child mortality rate across the globe, if you take a look at the education level of the masses across the globe, if you take a look at the poverty, if you take a look at, you know, how people are coming towards, you know, the middle class, if you take a look at our neighboring country where over 300 million people have been, you know, moved from the poverty to the next level, and we see that that transformation has taken across the globe. Now, the second part is because we are in the Asian markets. I see that Asia is going to be transforming. Asia is going to be transforming because Asia has always been one of the leading economy of the world. And if we take a look at all the latest numbers, that are coming out through all these big research firms and consultancy firms, we see that the prosperity in Asia is a given factor. 800 million, infrastructure projects other than China are being launched, in the Asia alone. If we take a look at the inclusion in terms of how people are coming into the mainstream, in terms of talent, in terms of global trade flows, in terms of prosperity, in terms of longevity, we see that Asia is in the forefront of all those parameters. And if we take a look at the global transactions in terms of what is taking place, we see that with regards to the future, more than half of the internet users are residing in Asia. And the two major countries that are driving this inclusion is China and India, which is in our neighboring countries. If we also take a look at the changes, we see like Bangladesh itself has transformed, in a lot of ways in the last 5 to 6 years, right? So the transformation is taking place, the change is taking place, and there's a lot of spending power. So by 2030, over 45% of the trade is going to take place from this region alone. If we take a look at just the CPAC, we can see through the analysis that it will affect 3% of our own GDP, if we don't do anything. If we take a look at the access that is going to be happening, through Pakistani markets, we see there's going to be over $60 billion that has already been spent, and the estimates are about $140 billion if we play smartly in these global trade flows. So I see that Pakistan in the upcoming years is going to be transformed because we are situated at the right road, and even though we are at the crossroads, but we see that there is going to be a lot of economic activity that is going to be happening in our own backyard. So I'm quite hopeful. Now, the second part is about the slavery, which is, one of the things that Raza Bhai has talked about, one of the global UNO initiatives. And obviously, with regards to that, we are seeing that there is a lot of, if we take a look at the poverty itself, they said that by 2015, if I remember correctly, the UNO global initiative, that they will be able to eliminate poverty by 50%. And we are sitting around over 90%. And they are expecting that by 2030, there will be a zero level of poverty, there will be a total poverty that will be eliminated throughout the globe. Now, how that takes place is another question, but the forecast at least suggests that, from the reports that I have read in the past. How would we transform? I think something that in order for transformation to take place, we have to build a comprehensive ecosystem. At each level of our society, we have to reinforce the message that Raza Bhai has been giving us at the school level, at the provisional level, at the federal level, and it has to be part of our curriculum. That's the first and the most important part. And how can we magnify that message? We have the right ecosystem, which is being built, through these social media campaigns that we have, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. All these platforms have to be enabled in order to broadcast that message. Right initiatives with regards to the corporates have to be enrolled into this program to ensure that there is a social corporate responsibility that is taking place, and they are taking comprehensive and important steps to address this issue. Thirdly, at the governmental level, there has to be a seriousness, not just meetings, but this ability to actually use this program in a comprehensive way with regards to funding which is required, and in order to propagate the message at all level and functioning of the government itself. It will be in the far-flung areas, remote areas, where there will be a necessity to make sure that our kids are going to school and we are creating the right amount of intellectual capacity in our people to understand what slavery is all about. So this is how I think that we could eliminate slavery from its roots if we could have a very comprehensive and cohesive strategy which is built around multiple initiatives enforced together so that it is implemented at the grassroots level. Raza Bhai, I think you probably know more.
There's a question here, right at the back. On your left, Mr. Malik. Just to see you, it's right at the back. I'm waving my hand. Just to see you there, Mr. Malik, making that talk is inspirational, let alone knowing about your backstory. You said something in your conversation at the start that just prompts this question. You said that your father gave you a certain book about the conversations to have with oneself. My question actually has 2-3 parts. One, what conversation you had with yourself when you regained consciousness after that horrible accident? 2, what conversation do you have with yourself on a daily basis when you look in the mirror and you set out for the day? And third, a lot of us go through such situations where everything is taken away from us. What would you recommend the kind of conversation we should have with ourselves if things are taken away from us?
You know, I'm so proud of all the young faces that are here. I think you are the future of Pakistan. And thank you for asking such a comprehensive question. आपका आंसर देने के लिए मुझे ज़्यादा लंबा चौड़ा टाइम नहीं लगा बिकॉज हमारे पास ऐसे ऐसे लेजेंड्स पड़े हुए हैं जो ये जवाब ऑलरेडी दे चुके हैं. हमें सिर्फ उन्हें पढ़ने की ज़रूरत है. मुझे अभी भी याद है कि फैज़, आई वाज हियर, फैज़ का फैज़ का नुस्खा है वफा में. अब तो लगता है कि कुछ भी नहीं है. महताब न सूरज न अंधेरा न सवेरा, राइट? और फिर वो आगे लेके चलते हैं. इसमें लंबी एक गज़ल है बट उसका जो एंड है वो बेसिकली ये है कि माना कि ये सुनसान घड़ी सख्त कड़ी है मगर मेरे दिल ये तो फ़कत एक घड़ी है, चाहो तो जीने को एक उम्र पड़ी है, right? So the ability to dive deep into yourself and know that the human race has always prevailed, that no matter what happened, it is built in our DNA that we must move on, right? And chaho to jeene ko ek umr padi hai, right? It's this understanding, right? That you must not give up. Or, Bhule Shah कहते हैं कि फ़कत एक नुक्ते विच गल मुकदी है. एंड वो नुक्ता ये है कि अगर आप अपने आप को खुद पहचान लें, अगर थोड़ा सा टाइम लेके आप अपने साथ लगाएं, तो आपको ये सारे जवाबात मिल जाएंगे. और मैंने ये देखा कि ज़िंदगी में मैं इतना मसरूफ़ रहा कि शायद मैं अपने जवाब ही नहीं ले पाया. और अल्लाह का इतना बड़ा एहसान हुआ मेरे साथ, ये एक्सीडेंट के साथ I was able to find myself. Right? How many of you, if I ask you, take time to indulge in your own life and to see what you are doing? We are all being pushed around. बच्चों का प्रॉब्लम, अच्छा जिसके पास कुछ नहीं है उसका ये मसला है कि वो कैसे कुछ पैदा करे, और जिसके पास बहुत कुछ है उसको ये प्रॉब्लम है कि कहीं खो ना जाए. ठीक है, जिसके बच्चे नहीं हैं उसको बच्चों का प्रॉब्लम है, और जिसके बच्चे हैं उसको उनकी शादियों का प्रॉब्लम है. जिसके पास जॉब है उसको ये प्रॉब्लम है कि ये जॉब खो ना जाए, और जिसके पास जॉब नहीं है उसको वो हसरत से बैठा देख रहा है कि जॉब कब मिलेगी. और इस पूरी कश्मकश में हम पूरी ज़िंदगी गुजार देते हैं, लेकिन हम अपने आप को समझते नहीं. तो अगर आप थोड़ा सा टाइम अपने साथ लगा लें तो आपको इन सब सवालों का जवाब मिल जाएगा. एटलीस्ट दैट्स व्हाट आई डिड.
Thank you so much, Mr. Niaz Malik, for your inspirational talk today. I have a couple of announcements to make before we move on to the last speaker. Thank you once again, sir, for being here, for sharing your story and inspiring all of us. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
profound admiration for what you are, who you are. Everyone believes that. Profound. I will ask an intrusive question. Because you have not lost everything. You said, I've lost everything. MashaAllah, you have faced it with great courage. Your intellectual and mental capacity is good, better than most of us. How did that corporation that you were working with, did it discriminate against you and ask for you to discontinue your services? You richly deserve to be where you were, if not even further ahead. So it is an intrusive question, awkward. If you don't wish to answer, I'll respect that. But why are you not doing what you were previously doing? You seem fully capable of doing it. You just can't stand up. That's all right. Doesn't matter.
I think it's a great question. First of all, I am extremely thankful to my organization because it gave me a chance to grow. Another important aspect is that one thing that, I have a difference with a lot of our leadership that hangs on to many things, despite the fact that realities have changed. With me, when I realized that, life has changed tremendously, I felt that the major focus should be towards my own health, my own well-being. Javed Bhai, it took me thousands and thousands of times to do this exercise to gain this hand movement, right? And I felt that the responsibility of being a CEO was something that will take an immense amount of time, energy, effort, dedication, commitment, which I was not able to put at that particular time. I felt that the priorities had changed. And I also felt at that time that somebody else will do a better job, that there is a line of leadership which I had created in our organization, and that it is time to pass on that responsibility. And I think it's very important for a leader to know when to call it a quits, at a certain level and move on to the next thing. And that's exactly what I did. Now, coming to the second point, lost everything in a sense from the movement point of view. But life, I have learned, is an equilibrium. You never lose it all. When you lose something, God gives you multiple things. It is another topic which I could discuss with you some other time, what I have gained, but I feel that I have gained tremendously, much more than what I have lost, and I'm really excited to be living this life and really energized by it. So that's what it is. I think I've taken a lot more time, so I will let the next speaker come on board. And thank you so much for listening to me, and have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So this applause is as a testament that more and more of us need to get him as a motivational speaker in our own organizations as well. And he's also a corporate trainer. So first I'll get to the announcements and we'll come to our final, most exciting speaker of the day. Please note that tomorrow's session will begin at 9 a.m. sharp. So call it an early night tonight. The first talk of the day is Randy Zuckerberg. So please ensure that you're here on time. And she has a very, very tight schedule, so the presentation will begin at 9 a.m. sharp. The second announcement is about tomorrow's closing ceremony will be graced by His Excellency Dr. Arif Alvi, President of Pakistan. Due to the protocol, you are requested to please ensure that you bring your delegate cards. Do not forget them tomorrow. Please ensure you have them, otherwise you will not be allowed inside, as there will be additional security in the premises. Secondly, please note that after lunch, your cell phones will not be allowed inside the venue. We have made proper and safe arrangements for you to leave your cell phones and get them back. A lot of people are getting separation anxieties from their cell phones right now. I think that's another lesson of the conference, so let's get on with it. Right. And our last speaker for the day is a fantastic person because of his mission. He is a Scandinavian business strategist, brand builder, advisor, and global marketeer by heart and soul. and he has worked globally for over 25 years in marketing strategy with many of the world's leading brands and companies, including the one man's mission to rebuild the image of Pakistan. So here to talk about why Pakistan will be the hub of advertising globally is the Honorary Consul General of Pakistan in Finland and CEO of Marketing Man, Ville Airola. Put your hands together for him.
Okay, it's not going to work. Can I have the lights on? Lights on? To the hall? Lights on? Now, thank you. You are living in a paradise of selfies. I have done one selfie in my life, and that was with my family. Now we do my first ever video selfie, if I know how to do it. You're going to stand up now, all. Stand up. And then, when I count 1, 2, 3, you all shout as loud as you can, Pakistan Zindabad. So for foreigners, it means like victory of Pakistan, something like that. Anyway, are you ready? We do it twice. So 1, 2, 3, then twice Pakistan Zindabad, so I can get everyone to picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, once more. Thank you. Lights off. I think you were just looking so tired that I wanted to do that. Okay, let's go. We don't go yet? Can I have a screen? Is it on? So, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Hyvää iltapäivää in Finnish. God eftermiddag in Swedish. So, language lesson. It's so great to be here. I want to thank Raza Jaffar, Sarmad Ali, are you here? This is probably the best thing happened for Pakistan in the last 30 years. This is not only about advertising, world getting back to Lahore. We are all specialists in communication. So when we are here as foreigners, we go back home with the message of Pakistan in a totally different way than if you would have a business delegation coming to Pakistan trying to sell something. So all my foreign colleagues, when you get home, you need to start to do the promotion work for Pakistan as I've been doing for the last 15 years. This is not only to thank the big bosses, because there's tens or hundreds of students who have been wonderful work. There is Fatima Fakir, who has been doing the transportation arrangements, thank you. There is my wonderful conducting officer, Sardar Ali, my shadow man, with me all the time. So I would just want to everyone remember that there's a lot of these small things that actually make this event so interesting. So you're talking about 30 years ago, to 1989. So what happened in 1989? Outside Asia, Berlin Wall came down. Little things in the history. Soviet Union collapsed. Little thing in the history. I got engaged. Even bigger thing. And she still loves me, I think. And then Ad Asia came to Lahore. And now we are back here and talking about that. I'm still married, surprisingly. But this is bigger than you actually realize. This is going to be bigger maybe in a week, in 2 months, something like that. When this after wave of this everything goes on social media and so on. So, Generation All. I have a lot of hats. For the last 4 years, I've been Honorary Consul General of Pakistan in Finland. Such a big honor. The process took only 3.5 years. So I could have already 7.5 years, but, you know, the governments, both. I am marketer by soul, as I said in instructions. I have done that for the last 26, 27 years. I just love it. I just love to create stories that are supporting even difficult and challenging things like Pakistan. Pakistan is not the easy thing. I think Raymond said that Pakistan is something that you can't learn from news. Yes, you can learn Pakistan from the news, but that's a very different Pakistan that you're going to learn from there. So I have two core messages. One message is for my foreign colleagues, a little bit also to you, all the Pakistanis, because I've been doing this for years to brainwash people to rethink the image of Pakistan. This happens in Pakistan. Can you hear me? Now you can hear. So, is mic on? Are we back? Yes. So two messages, to audience, I would say. So, about my brainwashing adventure for Pakistan, and the second thing is that the advertising agency world and what that will be in 20 years. I'm not a creative, I am creative. That's a difference. So my approach to the advertising agency world or the future of advertising and marketing is the huge changes happening in the world, and those are the things I'm going to talk about. So this is the guy. I'm not the one that he's holding, I'm the one that holds that. So I'm a Finn. I come from Finland, the home of Santa Claus and home of Moomins. I think we have some Japanese people as well that recognize the Moomins. So Finland, we don't go into the details, but Finland has 5.5 million people. Remember that number now, 5.5 million. I know it's ridiculous from a Lahore point of view or Pakistan point of view. So, and we have 4.1 million cars. That's not those, no, it's so value information. So Finland is a country of 1,000 lakes, that's Santa Claus, one of the best educations in the world and all those things. But I'm not talking about myself or Finland today. Now I'm like Richard Quest. No. So why Pakistan? I've been doing this proudly since 2002, 2003. I have been in pictures. I don't take pictures, but I'm in pictures. Just a very quick overview. I have been interviewed by so many medias. There it says Nokia, the big one. It says Ericsson, don't tell anyone in Finland. I'm actually promoting a Swedish brand. I have been involved with a lot of things. And I have to say one thing, the blonde with me on the Nordic Pakistan IT Summit, that is your honorary consul, Pakistan in Estonia. So that's really Naya Pakistan, to have a young woman as an honorary consul, the first one ever in Estonia. So, Jaffer said yesterday that it's good to mention wife, so I mentioned wife because without my wife's permission, I would not be here. When I told my friends at the J. Thompson that time that I'm considering to join you to Pakistan, I told my wife, and she said, "No, you're not." And why? You know, if you think really those years, these were kind of news we got from Pakistan. There was always, every day, there was a breaking news. Nowadays, you have a breaking news about everything on the Pakistani media. But at that time, the breaking news really meant breaking news. And breaking news was on CNN or wherever, basically saying the message that you should not go to Pakistan. Sorry, I have to walk because that one is not showing what I was supposed to say. So, that was the starting point. Eventually, I promised to get myself, after some of the work we have done, to Karachi. June, 46 degrees. That was 6 o'clock in the morning. And you know Karachi, humidity, I don't know, 300%. It was like a Swedish sauna, so not so hot, but humid. And the reason why I came to Karachi was one family in the Pakistani advertising agency business. I know, Amin, are you here? There. So the Ramal family, Karim Ramal, many of you know. Karim was the president of Jawalta Thompson in Pakistan and whatever vice president of the university in New York. And I promised him that I will join the team in Karachi. And so Amin, Karim's little brother, is here. So Anwar, the father, Karim, and Anwar, those three gentlemen are the reason why I actually took myself to Pakistan first time. So whatever I'm going to say now, you can thank them or you can blame them. But my love affair with Pakistan started with the ad agency business. And that's why it's so wonderful to be on the stage and actually see that ad agency is back in the city. So, Amin, once again, thank you. You can message your father that now I mention him even. So this all started. This was the starting point for my one-man mission. Why? I landed to Karachi. There was only 2 blondes in the plane that time. One Norwegian guy and myself. And we were both looking at each other. What the heck is going to happen in the city? We're going to be shut like tomorrow morning. It all started in the first morning. So by noon, the staff of Marriott Karachi, everyone, they knew me by name. And they kept coming to me that, anything we can bring to you, Mr. Willie? And I realized that the whole picture of Pakistan, this is totally global level cheating. If I'm watching CNN and it says, breaking news, car bomb in Karachi, and shows a sandy road in a city, where the heck is sandy road in the city of Karachi? Maybe it's somewhere, but it's a place that I'm not going. So I realized this, that I started my whole story. This is kind of funny that I'm talking this to you, all the Pakistanis, but I think it's quite good for you to know what this crazy Viking is telling about your country abroad. I don't believe that you can actually change people's minds about like saying that, okay, this is you're wrong. This is what you have to think. So I have had different kind of strategy, and that is that I'm showing them things that they might rethink their own thinking, and this is how it goes. As long as they see that this is Pakistan, they won't come to Pakistan. Would you go to a country like this kind of image? No, at least not for business, right? So I'm very sorry for the next ones, but you have to run this kind of things that you actually break the thinking. So I have 2 slides. Well, how about this kind of Pakistan? This is also Pakistan. It's, I think, 2013, the Hello magazine. But this one, girls playing cricket. What the heck is that all about? It can't be Pakistan. Second one, even more hot 100 people. I can guarantee you that I have these three slides in my every presentation when I talk about Pakistan. And people are really, are you really saying, this is not the fake news? I said, no, this is also Pakistan. But for some reason, you never see anything else than the negative part. Okay, why this all matters? Not our dog. Why this all matters? It matters because I have a big picture for this country. No, I'm not running in politics. I never deal with politics. But I have a big picture. I do keep all rights to all the change. I have a couple of things which I do believe that will change this country and the future of advertising in this region. First, population, then consumers, then the purchasing power and shopping, and then the generations, which is kind of the title of the presentation today. My friends in Pakistan always keep saying to me that there's one thing that we, the Pakistanis, are very good. That's the population growth. You have been quite good. You know, when the Nokia from Finland, when they launched the GSM mobile phone, I think that was 1995. Yes, I'm that old. So 1995, the population of Finland was 5.1 million. The population of US, if I remember right, was 286 million. What was the population of Pakistan in 1995? 128. And now it's what, 220? Yeah, so you are very good on that. Another thing, so this is not only Pakistan, this is Asia. This is Asia. By 2050, the population in Asia is 5.3 billion. You understand what does it mean? It means that the whole balance of the world is changing in this 20 years that I am going to talk about, 20 years in advertising. The whole balance of the world, not only in Pakistan, not only some spots, but the whole world. Some hard facts, you know most of that, so I don't go into details. But if you really think that you know how much young people there are in this world, we are all, sorry for all the young people in the audience, but even you are too old to understand what's going to happen in 20 or 30 years. Because the world is changing so rapidly. Another very interesting thing, which is also linked to advertising and marketing, but especially it's linked to work. You know, it's very hard to estimate, but this is the United Nations number, so we can trust maybe them. So technology is changing the work. So 65% of the children entering primary schools today will end up in a job that doesn't even exist nowadays. This is pretty tough. Most of us who, I think, were born in 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we knew what kind of job we will have. These kids, they don't have an idea because they father, mothers, they might be doctors, lawyers, whatever they are. But if they are doing something which is manual work or whatever, even the lawyer work can be very different in the future, even that lawyers are always needed. So this is, it will change the behavior, but also will change the advertising, because the advertising needs to follow the behavior, because otherwise the advertisements will never reach the right audience. So think about this. Percent of population under age 15 on the world map. Yeah, Finland is there, very light green. You recognize the pictures? Madison Avenue. Is Madison Avenue somewhere on those darker ones? I don't think so. How about London? No, it's quite light green. How about Frankfurt? No, it's quite light green. I don't believe that these former hubs of advertising, where advertising was actually invented, I don't believe that those will be the hubs for the future of advertising in 20 years. Why would they? If the world is somewhere else. Another thing that you know very well, so people are moving to the cities. When people are moving to the cities, they start to buy things in a totally different way than those years that they were living on countryside. So I don't go into the details, everyone can read, but this is what is happening. Your wonderful neighbor India has the largest rural population, followed by another wonderful neighbor, China. So this is one mega trend which is having a very, very big effect on future of advertising and the future of this country as well, which are going to be getting back. Same thing. This is happening. This is happening in this city. And my motto that I'm actually leaving in the hands of the people from this city especially, that how about Lahore would be the Madison Avenue of advertising in 25 years or 20 years? If you say, no, it's not going to happen, then okay, have a nice life. I'm saying it could happen if you're going to do it. We're talking about over 100 years old industry, advertising, which has never, ever faced any real revolution. In advertising, revolution is every January or every time you have a new CMO. Oh, this is revolutionary stuff. We're going to do everything new. There has been no revolution, but there will be evolution. And the difference between revolution and evolution is that your tools are very different. And you have to prepare yourself to the evolution, not the revolution. Okay? So this is the thing. There will be a lot of people and everybody move to the cities. Yes, because the next factor which is affecting the advertising is consumption and the middle class. Yes, I know all the challenges happening in Pakistan right now which are really hitting the middle class. But is that something that you're going to have forever? Of course. Middle class in every country is the best survivor because they have to. They have kids. The kids are in school. They have jobs. They have mortgage. They have car leasing payments, whatever they have. There's always the way that the middle class will find a way. The middle class is the one that's consuming all the products and all your advertising you're going to do. Asia will be the region of consumers. Not, again, going into details because you're talented people, you can read, but Asian economies, first time ever, starting next year, will be larger than the rest of the world in terms of consumption. This is an era that started years ago. 2020, it's all over. And you were still saying to me that, guys, all the Sir Martin Sorrells and others in New York or London and so on, they still know how to do the advertising for this region. If you believe, then it's good for Martin. But I don't think so. Next one, humankind and smartphones. This is a game of numbers. Any idea what these numbers might be? So Anders Hansen is a Swedish physician. So I'm stealing this for my dear neighbor, Sweden. There has been, during the whole humankind, the history of humankind, there has been like 200,000 generations. 200,000 generations, roughly. No, sorry, 200,000 years. So roughly, that means 10,000 generations. Any guess what the 6, 4, and 1 could be? I tell you, how many generations there has been of that 10,000 generations with electricity? 6. How many of those generations have been driving a car? 4. How many generations actually have had a smartphone? Less than 1. And this, what I'm talking about, the next generation in the advertising. Those people, all young ones in the audience, you think that you are very digital savvy people because you know how to use the smartphone. I'm talking about people who are having their first birthday maybe this year. Those are the first ones who are actually seeing something which is all digital, all the smartphone or whatever it will be. That is linked directly to shopping. So obviously, which is happening right now, shopping gets truly borderless. I mean, truly means totally global. And this is not future, this is right now. And one of the biggest moves in this whole area is that technology gives an access to even local companies, little small brands to go abroad digitally. So even that you're setting up a brand today, you can actually sell things to the world tomorrow. This was not possible years back. Okay? So this is the thing. Cities consuming, playing with the smartphones. So this is the future of advertising. Well, partly it is. First of all, this is not the opinion about people on those generations. So these are the generations we have right now. We have people born before 46, before the baby boomers, but for some reason marketing world never gave them any nice name. So Generation X, these are the baby boomers. After the baby boomers, this is the MTV generation, hip-hop, independent films, all those people. Millennials, this is the fashionable. Still people talk about millennials. These people are already middle-aged. And when you talk about millennials, yeah, they are kind of youngish. Come on. If you're born, what, like early 1980s. Who is born in the early 1980s? You feel yourself young? Yeah, of course. You? Yeah, okay. Lying. But anyway, so in the marketing world, for some reason, we keep talking about millennials like the last ones. We have these. So I have 3 sons, which are all born in 1990s. So I recognize this generation because this generation is very much more digital-driven than the generations before. But even these ones have no idea what the world will be in 20 years. Even these people are old in that respect. Then we run out of alphabets. What's happening then? In Scandinavia, we are very lucky because we can keep talking about this for future, for years. Why? Because we have more letters in our alphabet. This wonderful letter is O. That's a Swedish O. So let's think about what would be this generation O. I'm actually doing a lot of research on this in different countries, so maybe in a couple of years I'm going to open the whole story, but basically these are the people who have been with the digital world. They have no idea how the analog world works. Maybe some of you have seen very funny video where a father gives an old C tape to kids. and they have no idea what the tape is all about, how this is played, and how does it work. It's a very good example that we're talking about so big changes that we don't even understand. So it was not so far away that we had this, LP records are actually back, but we have these LPs and singles and all that kind of stuff. Now everybody's streaming. My son, my youngest son, is 26. He doesn't understand why I still want to, the new Michael Bublé's Christmas record as a CD. He's like, what the heck is going on with you? You can stream it. You go, why do you go to Spotify? Well, I want to have the old-fashioned CD. That's easy. So these are the ones that will actually change the world. And especially, I said, these are the ones who are going to change the world in Asia, and these are the ones that are going to change the world in Pakistan. And now comes the challenge. When we want to change the country or change the advertising or change anything in 20 years, we have to start doing it right now. It's not going to change if we wait for 17 years and then we change something. We have to prepare ourselves to do things like that. And there's one factor why we have to keep doing this, is that in this digital age, the speed of change is between 3 to 5 times faster than this internet era. We're still living in an internet era. It doesn't matter what the digital consultants keep saying or some of the ad agents keep saying. This is still internet era because we have a lot of places in the world which are not linked on that kind of digital speed that maybe in so-called Western world we're talking about. And that's where we get to the advertising. So, think about this. 1907, I don't know if this will be Generation L. Over 100 years ago, the Soap King said this. And now we are saying that whole advertising will be changed, there will be a revolution change. Well, I'm not talking about picture, I'm talking about the message. Advertising has to change. There was a message which was very effective once, but it's not effective anymore. Why? Because the world is changing, people are changing, consumers are changing, everything's changing. Very, very fast that we put our minds to the map of advertising. 1836, paid advertising, 1840, 1864, 1869, 1920s. The government of the US said that advertising is nice. Maybe we can sell this to Imran Khan's government. 1929, 1920s, radio. 1950s, 1980s, 1990s. And now we keep talking about artificial intelligence and blah, blah, blah. I have to tell you that just recently I've been listening to a lot of AI presentations, and every time I'm listening to those, I find myself smiling. Because I've seen every slide before, that was mid-1990s, but then the title was Internet. There's nothing new. The problematic approach is the same. So we can think that there's a lot of technologies, a lot of digital, blah, 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 but we're still doing advertising. You are not supposed to buy production houses. In the same way that the newspaper might have a printing house, an online service might have a server. It's the same thing. You should, when you do an advertising, why would you concentrate on the technology? It's your work to do messages that are actually selling products. So that's what I said, 3, 4, 5 times faster. All the smartphones that I made my first video selfie ever. That was founded. The first real smartphone came 10 years ago. It's quite new. The future of advertising business it lies on a partnership as it was 100 years ago. 100 years ago, there were no big corporate companies in advertising and so on. The football example we saw today, social football example, the app, that is just beginning, trust me. It was fun to look at right now, but it's going to be totally different in the future. And that's where we jump to my favorite chapter, which is Pakistan. Yes, I didn't say anything about technology because I'm not talking about technology. Technology is something that everyone can buy if you need technology. And in the future, even more, whoever can buy that. It's not restricted in any way. Okay, what's going to happen with my favorite country, Pakistan? First of all, this is where you are super, super good. You have this tradition of art, and you are a very creative nation. In good and bad, you are very creative. But even that world comes and we are going to be super, 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 super digital. We are not there yet, as I said. It doesn't mean that technology doesn't help you. But it doesn't even mean that you should not to do it in a new way. You can be creative, but you have to be creative in a new way. You have been creative always. So are you now saying to me that, you know, as a nation, as a country, Pakistan, you could not be the #1, for example, in advertising in the future? You have been. You have that in your soul and blood. You can do it if you want. Advertising was born with young talent. You do have a lot of young talent. This is easy. This is not difficult. You have a lot of people. The only thing is that you have to do right things for the future, and you have to start it right now. Not go into detail, I'll just leave this to you. Is the world of multinational giants over? I think it is. You have wonderful biscuits in this country. Thank you very much for the gifts. I've been eating those every morning now. So let's think about if EBM could be available in Scandinavia. It could be in the same way available cookie globally as some bigger brand of the world. Or it could be even much smaller than EBM from Pakistan. I'm not saying anything else, but population of Finland, 5.5, population of Sweden, 9. H&M and IKEA are both from Sweden. Their domestic market at that time was around 8 million people, and they became global. The population of Finland was just above 5 million when Nokia was invented. And Nokia's market share was in 2000, 52% in the world, and in the US only 15%. So meaning that the rest of the world was only using Nokia phones. So are you saying to me that with this population you have, you could not become the big in the world? If you are saying that, I said, well, have a nice life, get your population growth going on. But if you make another kind of decision, you could become that, taking brands first locally, regionally, and then even to the world. How this is happening? First of all, I have to say, the women panel today, the best coming from Scandinavia, where women decide everything. It is exactly what you have to do in this country. Why? Think about advertising. Think of this. So, in the history, why the big advertising agencies were hiring women? Well, they were the only ones who actually knew what's happening in households. Is there any difference? No, not even in Scandinavia. I get that paper. If I go to do the grocery shopping, I get that from my wife, what to buy, and then when I get home, she said, okay, why did you buy this? So I couldn't read. I'm saying that if we want to make what I would like to see, that Pakistan becomes the hub of the advertising in this region, Asia, in 20 years, it's all of you women. It's going to happen because of you. Guys, we can be honest, we're all lazy. And that's always the case. If you are 10 years old, you're 15, 20, 25, 50, 60, if there's two options, watch the sport, hang around with the guys, or do the work, or study, those are easy decisions. So that's why I'm saying this is the area where I do believe that the women of Pakistan will be the change makers in the very near history. And what it's going to require, this is something that I can talk forever, but this is something you need to do, because there's a lot of restructuring you have to do in education, mindsets, all of that. I understand we used to have the same thing in Scandinavia 100 years ago, that families want their kids to be doctors and lawyers. Okay. What's the point to make your kids doctors or lawyers if they are not even interested in that? How about the whole Pakistani Advertisers Association and all you in the business? How about you start systematic program with university or universities in Pakistan? You are making these advertising professionals who are going to be advertising professionals in 20 years, the best ones in the world. We can do it. It's not even complicated. We just decide, okay, let's start to do it. You can start that in fall 2020. It's easy. And that's something I want to see happening. Because I always used to talk about rebirth of Asian tiger. You know that Pakistan was called Asian tiger in the 1960s? It was growing faster than Japan at that time, but then unfortunately a lot of things happened. As I said, this has to happen, but it also happens that we work together, meaning the advertisers, marketers, industries, everybody, universities, educators, all that kind of stuff. There has to be something that you do together. And please don't kill that creative part of a society that you're already having. Don't push people to become doctors and lawyers if they are very creative. Now you're moving closer to me. I can see that I'm over time, but I'm not watching that. World is very, very complicated nowadays. It only means that you need to get complicated as well. That's the only way it's going to work. Further, don't stop looking back. You can't drive your car if you look in the mirror. If you don't believe, try it. You have to look at the future. That's the only way to go. Because you have all the possibilities and opportunities to make this country super, super good. We have a lot of foreigners who have been here for the first time. I have been here, I don't know, 175 times. And I kept saying this for years. But now, because I'm talking to the advertising people and marketing people, now it's time for you to understand that, okay, let's start with this one. Let's make Pakistan to be #1 in terms of advertising. I know my friends from other Asian countries, sorry, if these guys won't make it, then you can try to do it. So market is around you, talent is inside you, the passion is there, you're ready to go. We heard today from a wonderful young woman doing fantastic things on mountains. You have to be brave. You have to be proud. I think that one of your biggest challenges is that you are not proud enough. I have been on Pakistan Day parade and all that kind of stuff, and then you are patriotic and you're Pakistan, Zindabad, and all the colors and everything. But then next day, well, you know, we have to be a little bit quiet. You have to make that noise, as was the previous speaker said. A lot of Pakistani IT companies keep calling me all the time that, you know, we are looking for customers in Scandinavia and so on. Just food for thought. Getting as a player into IT business in the world is a very, very tricky game because the competition is there. You're already a couple of years behind. But when you would take the technology and smart advertising, you still have that advantage. You might be the first ones. So instead of trying to get Scandinavian companies to give you coding to be outsourced here, how about you make your own moves? Is there any reason why you would not or could not be that? Of course there's no. It's only here. You want to be brave enough and proud enough? Okay, let's have a meeting, not tomorrow, tomorrow is at Asia. Let's have a meeting on Friday morning and it's on a Monday. Advertising is not complicated. If it would be, I would not be in this business. Okay, it's time. 20 years ago, we talked about 20 years ahead. What was 20 years ago? Year 1999. How was it back then? I used to have a little screwdriver with me when I traveled around the world. Why? Because in some hotels, the phone jack was inbuilt in the wall, so I opened the cover and then I got my dial-up modem. Sometimes I forgot to put it back, and then the hotel always asked, okay, what the heck has happened in your room? You remember that numbers? One generation with a cell phone, not actually really. The 0.5 means that it's not the one generation yet. Do we really know where the advertising will be in 20 years? Give me a break, nobody knows. Can we guess? Yes. Can we prepare ourselves? Yes. And that is something we should start to do right now. I saw this before. Advertisers have to change with them, and it's the present taste. This is not complicated. This guy said this 1907. I mean, we're still talking about revolutionary advertising. Advertising is dead. Give me a break. It's never dead. It won't be dead. It will be there. Advertising ages are so last season, baby. No, it's not. Think about what Ali just left, what Ali and Niaz showed us yesterday, all the wonderful clips and so on. You are saying that the advertising agency is so last season. No, advertising agency is not last season, but what the advertising agency will do, that's the key issue. If the advertising agency will do the same that they have been doing for decades, yes, it will be so last season, babe. It's gone. So there has been no change, basically no change in the way that the advertising agency has been working for the last 100 years. So should it be changed? Oh, yes, it should have. So, this is so slow. Population, urbanization, consumption, shopping, generation, advertising, all that, technology, politics. You Pakistanis, you always love to talk about politics, so that's why I have it there. Your neighbors in this market, but still really, are you saying to me that Pakistan could not be the #1 player in the advertising 20 years in this region if you are saying you're wrong? I'm saying that you are and you will be, and I will do everything I can to push people and make you understand that, okay, this is your momentum. If you don't do that now, it might be some other of the Asian countries for sure. Barack Obama stole "Yes, you can" from me because I was using that for 10 years before he started his campaign. No copyrights reserved, unfortunately. But I think that the whole this yes you can thing is something that has to be taken back to the Pakistani society, because you can. For media in Pakistan, you had a wonderful opening speech. We talk about fake media and everything. Trust me, I come from a country where people do trust in the media. We have very powerful media houses. Don't slip to that way that you would not do high-quality media, because you have to keep doing that. And you do the content, advertising world does whatever they do, but you have to have that content that people trust, because otherwise you are losing so much of those platforms that that advertising needs anyway. Football examples, very good research, decide, do it. As Manchester United example, we could do that Manchester United example for Pakistan and follow that. If you want, someone will do, as I said, some of your dear neighbors in this region. Samina said it very well today. Be brave, do it, be brave, and then be proud. She took the Pakistani flag to every mountain, right? We should do the same in everything we do. Can I get it bigger without me? We are closing with this. This was a funny news, I think last week. So by 2037, the majority of newborns in the UK will be e-babies because their parents met online. So I heard it on Bloomberg, and I was driving, and I was thinking, okay, this is a very interesting idea. So the babies, their parents met online. So what kind of online babies will actually have in a couple of years? Because even their parents met online. What is their digital behavior in the future? And no worries, the language we still have 2 to go, so I'm very, very, very good to go for the next 20 years with you. Thank you very much. I have no idea how long I talk because the watch is already gone. But I am pretty much in every social media channel in the world. My passion is to help Pakistan to be #1 in the world. So whatever you need, all the young people you want to go to study abroad, anything. If you need a contact, you need advice, you need anything from Finland, Sweden, Scandinavia, Estonia, whatever, just let me know. Google me and you'll find my contact details from somewhere in the world. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for a fantastic day 2. Please remember, we start at 9 sharp tomorrow if you don't want to miss the Randy Zuckerberg talk. The shuttles for tonight's event, which is Bullish Nights at Greater Iqbal Park at Poet Restaurant, will leave all the hotels at 7:30. So you don't have a lot of time to dress up. Make sure you do that. See you all tomorrow. Thank you so much. Good evening.